Chapter 1059. Unbelievable. Spiritual Tattoo Venerable, are you sure Zhao Guan was killed by that grade 1 human supreme? Blood, Ghost, Ancestor frowned and asked in confusion. That's right. Although Ningyu is only a grade 1 human supreme, he is very powerful. Spiritual Tattoo Venerable nodded and said, Zhao Guan was careless, so Ningyu seized the opportunity to launch a sneak attack. Humph, what are you doing? You are a grade 6 human supreme. Can't you kill a grade 1 human supreme like Ningyu? Blood Ghost Ancestor snorted with an ugly expression. In the Blood God Palace, everyone knew that Zhao Guan was protected by him. Now that Zhao Guan was killed, wouldn't he become a joke when he returned to the Blood God Palace? I also want to kill Ningyu, but East War Master suddenly appeared. He is an early stage grade 7 human supreme. I am not his. Spiritual Tattoo Venerable said with a sad face. Slap. Before Spiritual Tattoo Venerable could finish, Blood Ghost Ancestor slapped him in the face. I don't care about the process, only the result. Blood Ghost Ancestor said coldly. Good. I will go kill Ningyu now. Spiritual Tattoo Venerable gritted his teeth. Go, don't let me down. Blood Ghost Ancestor waved his hand and said, with East War Master holding him back, the sword of evil can't attack you. Swish. Spiritual Tattoo Venerable didn't say anything. Instead, his figure flashed and quietly approached Ningyu. In fact, Spiritual Tattoo Venerable was only worried about the sword of evil. Without the sword of evil, he would have killed Ningyu long ago. Why would he wait until now? After all, he was in the dark while Ningyu was in the light. If he wanted to launch a sneak attack, Ningyu would have no chance to survive. Sword of evil, if you go all out, how long will it take to kill East War Master? Ningyu did not know the conversation between Venerable Spiritual Tattoo and Blood Ghost Ancestor. At this time, Ningyu was communicating with the Sword of Evil, trying to solve this situation. Ningyu's thinking was very simple. The Sword of Evil attacked with all his might, attacking East War Sovereign. As for Patriarch Blood Ghost, he would hold him back. Half an hour. The Sword of Evil's reply caused Ningyu's expression to turn grave. As a first-grade human sovereign, it was a huge challenge for Ningyu to resist an early 7th-grade human sovereign for half an hour. Let's fight. Ningyu decided to give it a try, since he couldn't catch the wolf without risking the child. If he won, he would be able to get rid of a huge problem. If he lost, he would just have to say goodbye. A person's life is spent in constant choices. If you don't give it your all, what difference is there between you and a salted fish? Sword of Evil. Oh no. Ningyu was just about to tell the Sword of Evil to go all out, but his pupils shrank and he quickly retreated. Die. The space in front of Ningyu suddenly split apart as a 6th-grade human supreme realm cultivator appeared from within. Venerable Spiritual Tattoo. Looking at the familiar figure in front of him, Ningyu's heart skipped a beat. He only cared about talking to the Sword of Evil and ignored the Venerable Spiritual Tattoo. Universe Palm. At this critical moment, Ningyu hurriedly used his newly advanced 7th-grade middle-stage soul power, wrapped it around his wrist, and pushed out with his palm. You overestimate yourself. Because Ningyu had suppressed his soul power inside the palm, in the Venerable Spiritual Tattoo's view, Ningyu's palm was not very powerful. With a flick of his sleeve, a cold light flew out and came into close contact with the blood-red palm. As for the Venerable Spiritual Tattoo himself, he charged at Ningyu at an extremely shocking speed. This, the Venerable Spiritual Tattoo's action, made Ningyu a little confused. It was so much so that Ningyu even doubted how the spiritual rune, Venerable, reached the 6th-grade sovereign realm. His palm print was so powerful. Could it be that the Venerable of spiritual runes was blind? Oh no! It turned out that the Venerable Spiritual Tattoo was not blind, but he was too confident in himself. When the cold light he flung out was shattered by the blood-red palm, the venerable spiritual tattoo finally reacted and hurriedly used a spell to block the blood-red palm. Whoosh! The battle between the venerable spiritual tattoo and Ning Yu caused a huge uproar in the surroundings. Although the East War Venerable and the Sword of Evil were both early 7th grade human sovereigns, and their battle was rather exciting, the focus of everyone's attention was on Ning Yu and the venerable spiritual tattoo. That was because there was a huge gap between Ning Yu and the venerable spiritual tattoo. One was a 6th grade human sovereign, while the other was a 1st grade human sovereign. The spectators might not be able to witness a battle between a 1st grade human sovereign and a 6th grade human sovereign in their entire lives. Therefore, no one wanted to miss this opportunity. Whoosh! After blocking Ning Yu's first palm print, the venerable of spiritual tattoos heaved a sigh of relief, thinking that it was a close call. Fortunately, he reacted at the crucial moment. Otherwise, he would have failed miserably in the first move. Ning Yu, I admit that I underestimated you, but from now on, you won't be so lucky. Taking a deep breath, the venerable spiritual tattoo continued, You can be proud of yourself for being able to block one of my moves as a 1st grade human sovereign. Why should I be proud? Do you really think that you can defeat me? Ning Yu asked in doubt. Ha ha ha. The venerable spiritual tattoo raised his head and laughed before he coldly said, I, the venerable spiritual tattoo, only need one move to kill you. Noisy. These 2 words came out of Ning Yu's mouth. Then he rose from the ground and charged towards the venerable. Originally, it was the venerable spiritual tattoo who launched a sneak attack on Ning Yu. But in the end, it was Ning Yu who took the initiative to attack the venerable spiritual tattoo. He had to admit that this was really ironic. I wonder if Ning Yu can defeat the venerable spiritual tattoo. Defeat? You're overthinking it. If Ning Yu can defeat the venerable spiritual tattoo, I'll twist my head off. That's right. There's a huge gap between Ning Yu and the venerable spiritual tattoo. Ning Yu is too arrogant. If I were him, I would have escaped long ago. Why would I stay and die? The surrounding martial artists were not optimistic about Ning Yu taking the initiative to attack the venerable spiritual tattoo. A 1st grade human supreme martial artist defeating a 6th grade human supreme martial artist was too shocking. Aunt Yin, Ning Yu has already passed the hurdle of the frenzied massacre demon. This time, it's time for you to help him, right? Among the crowd, 2 martial artists were conversing in low voices. These 2 martial artists were none other than Yunmu and the martial talisman, Venerable. The martial talisman, Venerable, slightly frowned and said, I can save him, but I have to let him suffer a little first. Aunt Yin, the venerable spiritual tattoo, is a 6th grade human sovereign. Ning Yu is definitely not his match. Yunmu hurriedly said, I know that Ning Yu is not the venerable spiritual tattoo's match, but it won't be easy for the venerable spiritual tattoo to kill Ning Yu. At most, he will only be able to heavily injure Ning Yu. The martial talisman, Venerable, faintly said. Furthermore, even if what? The martial talisman, Venerable, abruptly stopped halfway through his words. That was because the martial talisman, Venerable, had discovered something terrifying. In the distance, Ning Yu's fist collided with the venerable spiritual tattoo's fist. Ah, the venerable spiritual tattoo let out a miserable shriek like a pig being slaughtered. Chapter 1060. Is it done? Crash! The sudden change caused an uproar in the surroundings. The spiritual tattoo Venerable was a grade 6 human supreme. How could he be killed in one move? Furthermore, the most shocking thing was that the spiritual tattoo Venerable was devoured into a pile of flesh. Ning, you can't be so powerful. He's only a grade 1 human supreme. Yet he can kill a grade 6 human supreme. Could it be that the spiritual tattoo Venerable isn't at his peak? Impossible. The spiritual tattoo, Venerable, has always been at his peak. The reason why Ningyu was able to kill him was because Ningyu suddenly released an extremely powerful devouring power. The last cultivator's words shocked everyone. Devouring power. No matter when devouring power was a terrifying existence. How terrifying was Ningyu's devouring power to devour the spiritual tattoo, Venerable, into a pile of flesh in such a short period of time. One must know that not long ago, when the Dark Emperor devoured number 9 at the city gate of Tianjin City, everyone was extremely shocked. Now that Ningyu had devoured the Venerable of spiritual runes in an even shorter time, everyone's shock could no longer be described as indescribable. They could only be described as dumbfounded. You're courting death. Seeing that the spiritual tattoo Venerable was killed, the blood ghost ancestor instantly dashed out of the void and charged at Ningyu at an astonishing speed. First, Zhaoguan was killed, and now the spiritual tattoo Venerable was killed. The anger in the blood ghost ancestor's heart reached its peak. Chi! Everyone in the Blood God Palace knew that when the blood ghost ancestor was enraged, blood would flow like a river. Blood ghost ancestor, who was in a state of rage, squeezed the air so hard that crackling sounds rang out wherever he passed. Not good. Seeing that the blood ghost ancestor was about to reach Ningyu, the sword of evil forced the East War Venerable back and instantly stood in front of Ningyu. His fist collided with the blood ghost ancestor's fist. Bang! A crisp sound rang out, and both the sword of evil and the blood demon patriarch retreated several feet in unison. The sword of evil and Ningyu killed Zhaoguan and the blood demon patriarch in succession. No one in the world can save him. Blood ghost patriarch said coldly, "Today Ningyu must die." East War Sovereign. Then Ancestor Blood Ghost turned to look at East War Sovereign and said in a deep voice, "You and I will join forces and kill the sword of evil." "Are you talking to me?" East War Sovereign pointed at his nose and said, "Just now I wanted to join forces with you to deal with the sword of evil, but you didn't agree. Now you want to join forces with me to deal with the sword of evil? Haha, no way." You, Ancestor Blood Ghost's face was gloomy, on the brink of a violent rage. The sword of evil was very powerful. Without East War Sovereign's help, Patriarch Blood Ghost was not confident that he could defeat him. "The sword of evil, you actually dare to come back." Just as Ancestor Blood Ghost was feeling troubled, a powerful voice sounded from the distant horizon. Shua! Not long after, a figure tore through the void, speeding over. Shen Tu Hao. Looking at the figure that suddenly appeared, Ancestor Blood Ghost said, "The peerless geniuses of your 9 cauldrons divine pavilion were all slaughtered by the sword of evil, and even the crazy bloodthirsty demon was killed by him. Don't you think it's a bit too late for you to come over?" Humph. Ancestor Blood Ghost. I, Shen Tu Hao, do not need you to judge how I do things. With a cold snort, Shen Tu Hao said, "The crazy bloodthirsty demon was trash. Even the sword of evil couldn't kill him. If he died, then he died." Haha. Shen Tu Hao, the current situation is already very clear. The two of us will join hands and kill Venerable Sword Evil first. Faced with Shen Tu Hao's rebuke, the blood ghost ancestor was not angered at all. Instead, he laughed. "We can join forces, but the precondition is that we have to kill the two of them together." Shen Tu Hao fiercely glared at Venerable Sword Nefarious and Eastern War Venerable. 9 of my peerless geniuses were killed by Venerable Sword Nefarious and Eastern War Venerable, while 4th grade Sovereign was killed by this Danming. You mean to say that the disappearance of the people in Profound Sky City was caused by the East War Sovereign? Ancestor Blood Ghost said hesitantly. "Of course," Shen Tu Hao said coldly. "You and I will join forces and kill the East War Sovereign and the Sword of Evil. In the end, we will each take one of their corpses." "All right, Without thinking too much, Ancestor Blood Ghost agreed to Shin Tu Hao's suggestion. Ancestor Blood Ghost was very shrewd. Among the 4 early 7th grade sovereigns present, the Sword of Evil was the strongest, followed by him and Shen Tu Hao, and the East War Sovereign was the weakest. If the two of them joined forces, killing the Sword of Evil and the East War Sovereign shouldn't be a problem. Dark Emperor, Earthshaker, how long will it take for the two of you to recover to your peak state? While Ancestor Blood Ghost and Shen Tu Hao were talking, Ningyu started to talk to the Dark Emperor and Earthshaker. Ningyu's thoughts were very clear. The crazy bloodthirsty demon had already been killed by the Sword of Evil, and the 9 peerless geniuses of the 1st grade sovereign realm were also dead. The Ning family's defense must be very weak right now. If the Earthshaker and the Dark Emperor went over now, they wouldn't need to spend too much effort to chase away the experts of the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion, or even kill them all. It might be a little difficult to recover to our peak state. The Earthshaker said, but if I join forces with the Dark Emperor, killing a 5th grade sovereign realm shouldn't be a problem. You take the 8-legged centipede and immediately head to the Ning family. You must eliminate all the forces of the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion in the Ning family. Ningyu said solemnly. Understood. The Dark Emperor and the Earthshaker responded, then tore through the void and disappeared. As Shen Tu Hao and the rest's attention was on the Sword of Evil, no one noticed the departure of the Earthshaker and the 8-legged centipede. Eastern War Sovereign. Not long after the Earthshaker and the Dark Emperor left, Ningyu knew that he had to do something to delay Shen Tu Hao. After pondering for a moment, Ningyu said in a clear voice, Ancestor Blood Ghost and Shen Tu Hao joined forces. Do you want to join forces with us? It's not impossible to join forces with me. As long as you release the eldest young master, I will join forces with you to deal with Shen Tu Hao and the rest. Even now, the Eastern War Sovereign was still thinking about the eldest young master. Shrugging his shoulders, Ningyu said, Now that things have come to this, I don't want to hide it from you anymore. The eldest young master is still alive. When Ningyu spoke of panic, he did not even frown. You must join forces with us to deal with Shen Tu Hao and the Ancestor Blood Ghost. Otherwise, I can't guarantee that the eldest young master will not be killed by me. Ningyu licked his lips and said, The eldest young master's soul force is very vigorous. Good. I agree to join forces with you. The Eastern War Sovereign nodded his head heavily and said, But leave the Ancestor Blood Ghost to the Sword of Evil, and leave Shen Tu Hao to me. No problem. Ningyu smiled. Have you discussed it? While Ningyu and the Eastern War Sovereign were talking, the Ancestor Blood Ghost and Shen Tu Hao did not stop them. Chapter 1061. Come, not yet. Ningyu waved his hand at Shen Tu Hao and said, Although you guys aren't young anymore, there's no need to be so anxious. Young people should be more energetic, and old people shouldn't lose their vitality. Ningyu's words made everyone's faces black. How could you say such words to 2 initial 7th grade Sovereign Realm sovereigns? You're courting death. Sure enough, as soon as Ningyu's voice fell, Ancestor Blood Ghost cursed loudly and was the first to rush toward him. The Blood Ghost Ancestor couldn't take it anymore. He wanted to kill Ningyu first before dealing with the Sword of Evil and East War Sovereign. Let me. Seeing that the Sword of Evil wanted to help, Ningyu took a step forward and said in a solemn voice. Ningyu's action once again caused everyone to be shocked. How much confidence did he have to face the Blood Ghost Ancestor head-on? Isn't Ningyu a little too daring? The Blood Ghost Ancestor is a 7th grade Sovereign Realm sovereign. He's extremely powerful. It's not that he's daring, it's that his head was kicked by a donkey. In my opinion, Xiao Qin must have lost his mind. He must have a high fever, and his brain must have become muddled. You want to face me head-on? Just as expected, Ning Yu's action caused the blood ghost ancestor to be slightly stunned. Ever since he advanced to 7th grade sovereign realm, no one had ever dared to face him head-on. What's more, his opponent was only a 1st grade human supreme martial artist. Ning Yu, I'll let you know the consequences of being arrogant before me. The blood ghost ancestor let out a low roar, then poured the energy in his body into his wrist and threw a punch towards Ning Yu. PSSSD. The might of the blood ghost ancestor's punch had reached a terrifying level. Not to mention a 1st grade sovereign. Even a 3rd or 4th grade sovereign realm sovereign wouldn't be able to withstand it. Aunt Yin quickly saved Ning Yu. In the distance, Yunmu saw that Ning Yu was about to take the blood ghost ancestor's punch head-on. Don't worry, I want to see where Ning Yu gets his confidence from. The talisman martial supremacy said lightly. Aunt Jin, it'll be too late if we delay any longer. How could Ning Yu be a match for the blood ghost ancestor? Yunmu was so anxious that she was about to cry. Humph. Venerable talisman martial glared at Yunmu before fixing his gaze on Ning Yu. Supremacy talisman martial also believed that Ning Yu could block blood ghost ancestor's punch. However, for some reason, Supremacy Talisman Marshal wanted to see Ning Yu and Patriarch Blood Ghost fight. He wanted to see the gap between Ning Yu and Patriarch Blood Ghost. Bang! The next moment, Ning Yu and Blood Ghost ancestors' fists collided. Kacha! A crisp sound came from Ning Yu's fist. Uft! After that, a large mouthful of blood sprayed from Ning Yu's mouth, and his body was blasted flying. Ha ha ha! Ning Yu, I only used 50% of my strength in this punch. I didn't expect that you couldn't even block it. If I used my full strength, you would have been killed by me long ago. Succeeding in one move, Blood Ghost Ancestor threw his head back and laughed wildly, charging towards Ning Yu again. Since he decided to kill Ning Yu, Blood Ghost Ancestor would not hold back. On the surface, he said that he only used 50% of his strength. In reality, that was not the case. In order to kill Ning Yu in one move, he used a full 80% of his strength. Who would have thought that a punch with 80% of his strength could not even kill Ning Yu? Helpless, he could only attack a second time, striving to kill Ning Yu domineeringly. Good chance. How could the sword of evil miss such a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity? Everyone thought that Ning Yu was arrogant and overestimating himself, but that was not the case. Ning Yu had already secretly discussed with the sword of evil that he would take Blood Ghost Ancestors' move head-on. At that time, Blood Ghost Ancestors' emotions would definitely fluctuate. At that time, the sword of evil would attack powerfully, striving to severely injure Blood Ghost Ancestor. Ning Yu die. Oh no. For the second move, Blood Ghost Ancestor used all his strength. Seeing that his fist was about to hit Ning Yu's heart, Blood Ghost Ancestor could not help but laugh wildly. However, before his fist hit Ning Yu's heart, Blood Ghost Ancestor's expression changed drastically. Without thinking much, he immediately retreated. Poof! At this time, Blood Ghost Ancestor wanted to escape, but it was obviously too late. In the blink of an eye, the sword of evil appeared beside him, holding a low-grade royal rank flying sword, and stabbed it into his body. Damn it! Fortunately, Blood Ghost Ancestor slightly tilted his body at a critical moment. Otherwise, just the sword of evil's sword would be enough to take his old life. Go! Although the sword of evil didn't stab his heart, Blood Ghost Ancestor's aura also dropped a lot. Clenching his fists tightly, Blood Ghost Ancestor didn't even say a word before tearing through the void and disappearing in an instant. Blood Ghost Ancestor's sudden departure made Shin Tu-Hao's expression very ugly. Originally, he and Blood Ghost Ancestor could easily defeat the Sword of Evil and the Eastern War Lord if they joined forces. Now that blood ghost ancestor had fled alone, how could he fight against two? Swish! Sometimes it really was a case of rain falling on a roof. At the end of the street, a figure ran towards them in a sorry state. Not good. Great elder, not good. The figure shouted as he ran. Bai Peng, what's the matter? Shin Tu Hao said coldly. Just now, two experts suddenly killed their way into the Ning family and killed all the people we left in the Ning family. The warrior called Bai Peng didn't even have time to catch his breath and hurriedly said. After saying this, Bai Peng took a deep breath. However, there was still a trace of fear in his eyes. Who broke into the Ning family? Shen Tu Hao was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. Not only did he not get to Juding the Venerable on this trip to Tianjin City, but it also caused him to lose a lot. First, the 9 peerless geniuses were killed, then the crazed killer was also killed, and even the people he left in the Ning family were uprooted. Only Bai Peng, a 3rd-grade human sovereign, was left alive. If Bai Peng died, he would only be left with a single commander. Pucci! Bai Peng didn't let Shin Tu Hao down. His eyes suddenly rolled back and he died on the spot. Swish! After Bai Peng died, a figure sped over from afar. The Dark Emperor. This figure was none other than the Dark Emperor. Coming to Ning Yu's side, the Dark Emperor said it's settled. No one from the Ning family was injured. Earthshaker and 8-legged centipede stayed in the Ning family. I'm here to kill that 3rd-grade human sovereign. No need. That 3rd-grade human sovereign is already dead. He's over there. Ning Yu pointed at Bai Peng and said, This Bai Peng isn't simple. He withstood 3 of my moves and didn't die. He even made it here. The Dark Emperor said with a solemn expression, He's indeed very strong. There aren't many 3rd-grade human sovereigns who can withstand 3 of your moves. Ning Yu added, Today all of you will die. The conversation between Ning Yu and the Dark Emperor caused Shen Tu Hao's entire body to tremble in anger. Shen Tu Hao, aren't you being too optimistic? Ning Yu shrugged and said, The blood demon ancestor has already escaped, and your wings have all been removed by us. What do you have to fight against us? Haha, if you think that I'm only an early 7th-grade human sovereign, then I can tell you that you're too naive. Chapter 1062. Conference Hall Boom. When Shin Tu Hao's words rang out, everyone in the region had completely quietened down. The silence was suffocating. Boom. The silence did not last for long before it was broken by a soaring aura. Many cultivators looked at Shen Tu Hao with fear. 7th-grade intermediate sovereign. Shin Tu Hao was not an initial 7th-grade sovereign, but a 7th-grade intermediate sovereign. Ning Yu, I've realized that you're a troublemaker. Everything that happened in Profound Sky City recently was more or less related to you. Shin Tu Hao said indifferently, Because of your stupidity, I've decided to slaughter the entire Ning family after I kill you. An ominous glint flashed across Shin Tu Hao's cold eyes. Stepping on the ground, Shin Tu Hao's entire body leapt up, bringing along gusts of wind as he charged towards Ning Yu. Rustle. Seeing Shen Tu Hao charging out, the sword of evil also shot out in an instant. His galloping figure seemed to have torn apart the obstruction of the air, arriving before Shin Tu Hao in the blink of an eye. In that instant, the two figures clashed together without dodging. Boom! In that instant of impact, violent origin energy abruptly spread out. An extremely powerful shock wave constantly swept out in all directions. Crack! The hard ground was shaken by the shock wave, and a tiny crack appeared, emitting a cracking sound. The two figures separated upon contact, each taking a few steps back before stabilizing their figures. From the distance that the two of them retreated, it was clear that Shen Tu Hao had the upper hand in this move. Interesting, very interesting. After that move, Shin Tu-hao did not continue to attack. Instead, an arc rose from the corner of his mouth as he said, Ningyu, sword of evil, I'll let you live a little longer. 3 days later, I'll come and take your lives. Buzz. Shin Tu-hao's figure gradually turned illusory. In the end, he even completely dissipated between the heavens and earth. Ningyu, are you going to let Shin Tu-hao go just like that? Seeing Shin Tu-hao leave, the Dark Emperor frowned. What else? Ningyu spread his hands towards the Dark Emperor and said, If you can kill Shin Tu-hao, you can chase after him. I won't stop you. Don't. I still want to live a little longer. The Dark Emperor hurriedly said, To chase after Shin Tu-hao? What a joke. Shin Tu-hao was a 7th grade middle stage supreme martial artist. His strength was abnormally abnormal. The Dark Emperor only had the cultivation of a grade 2 human sovereign. Unless he raised his cultivation to grade 3, he would be courting death if he fought with Shin Tu-hao. Let's go. Ning, you didn't want to waste time here. Shin Tu-hao was a sinister and cunning person. If he were to turn back halfway and kill his way into the Ning family, wouldn't that be the end of it? The most important thing now was to first return to the Ning family, and then think of a way to get rid of Shin Tu-hao. Shin Tu-hao and the Blood Ghost ancestor were both formidable opponents. Although they were all heavily injured, it was still very easy for them to launch a sneak attack on a creation realm martial artist. You can't leave. Hand over the young master. Ningyu and the others had only taken a few steps when the Eastern War Lord shouted in a deep voice, If you want the young master, go to the Ning family tomorrow evening. Ning, you didn't even turn his head. After leaving these words, he disappeared. Crack! Looking at Ning Yu's departing figure, the Eastern War Lord clenched his fists, and a cold expression appeared in his eyes. Tianjin City, Ning Family. Conference Hall. At this moment, the conference hall was filled with many martial artists and demonic beasts. Those who had originally stayed in the Ning family were Ning He, Ning Tang, the silver-winged dragon, the twin-horned beast, Duancheng, and Ouyang Luan. Those in the storage ring were the lightning wolf king, Qin Xiang, the gold-devouring demon lion, and the fire divine eagle. The Ning family was able to escape danger this time, all thanks to these 2 seniors. Ning, he sat on the main seat of the conference hall, and even his voice was trembling a little. In the conference hall, apart from Ning Tang, Ning He's cultivation was the lowest. He felt pressured when Ning Yu insisted that he sit on the main seat. Ning Yu, did you hear that? Your grandfather calls me senior. Are you going to call me senior too from now on? Being addressed as senior by Ning He, the Dark Emperor immediately raised his nose and said proudly, Come, call me that. Bang! Ning, you kicked the Dark Emperor's butt and kicked him out of the conference hall. You stay outside the conference hall obediently. Without my permission, you're not allowed to take half a step into the conference hall. Since the Dark Emperor dared to tease Ningyu naturally wouldn't let him have it easy. If you don't want to go in, then don't go in. I don't care. The Dark Emperor pursed his lips and then rolled his eyes. He stared at Earthshaker and said, Old Nyo, don't stay inside. Let's go out and have a chat. Earthshaker's face was full of black lines. He turned his head and pretended not to hear. You offended Ningyu yourself. Don't drag me down with you. Boring. Seeing that Earthshaker was ignoring him, the Dark Emperor shrugged and immediately lay on the ground lazily and listlessly. Grandfather, I plan to make some contributions to the Ning family this time. After getting rid of the Dark Emperor, Ningyu said to Ning He, Call all the younger generation of the Ning family to the martial arts practice field. I have something to announce. Sigh, all right, I'll do it now. Ning, he had long wanted to leave. To be honest, he was under great pressure in the conference hall. Now that he had the chance to leave, he immediately got up and left. Wait for me. Seeing Ning He leave, Ning Tang hurriedly followed. Ning Tang's cultivation was lower than Ning He's. Even his legs were trembling a little. After Ning, he and Ning Tang left. Ning Yu's gaze slowly swept across everyone in the conference hall. Among you, many people and demonic beasts have followed me through fire and water. I'm very grateful to you. After pondering for a moment, Ning Yu said in a clear voice, I won't hide it from you. The next 3 days are related to the Ning family and my personal safety. If you want to leave, I won't stop you. If you want to stay, I'll welcome you with both hands. After saying that, Ning Yu closed his eyes and waited quietly. Tick, tick. Time was ticking away. Everyone in the conference hall looked at each other. No one said anything. With the Sword of Evil, an early-stage, 7th grade supreme martial artist, around and displaying his aura, who would dare to leave? Leaving at this time was no different from courting death. Very well. Since no one wants to leave, I'll talk about the plan for the next 3 days. 10 minutes later, Ning Yu slowly opened his eyes and said lightly, According to my estimation, the Eastern War Venerable will not come alone tomorrow. If I'm not wrong, he will join forces with the Blood God Palace's ancestor Shui Gui and the 9 Furnace Divine Pavilions, Shin, 2, how to attack the Ning family. At that time, all people and demonic beasts whose cultivation is lower than the supreme martial artist realm will hide in the Ning family's forbidden area. No matter what happens, they are not allowed to come out. All martial artists whose cultivation has reached the supreme martial artist realm, follow me to the martial arts practice field. Swish. After saying that, Ning Yu was the first to leave the conference hall and walk toward the martial arts practice field. Chapter 1063. News Tinchuan City, Ning Family Martial Arts Practice Field. Under the leadership of Ning, all the younger generation of the Ning family were standing in the martial arts practice field. The older generation were divided into 2 rows on either side. Very good. It seems that you have been practicing very hard during this period of time. Ning Yu's perception swept over the younger generation of the Ning family. Compared with the last time when Ning Yu returned to the Ning family, the cultivation of the younger generation of the Ning family had made a qualitative leap. Most of them were at the acquired realm, and a few had reached the innate realm. There was even one who had reached the true martial realm. You should have heard of empowerment, Ning Yu said loudly. His voice contained a faint fluctuation of primordial qi, so that the younger generation of the Ning family could hear it clearly. Whoosh! Ning Yu's words caused the younger generation of the Ning family to be in an uproar. There are many ways to improve one's cultivation, such as swallowing elixirs, secluded cultivation, but there was only one way that could improve a martial artist's cultivation in the shortest time possible. Empowerment. Empowerment could allow a martial artist of the innate realm to improve his cultivation to the true martial realm, the primordial Dan realm, or even the yin-yang realm in a short period of time. However, the conditions required for a martial artist to improve from the innate realm to the yin-yang realm were too harsh. First, the martial artist of the innate realm must have a strong physique that could withstand such a powerful energy. Ning Yu's idea was very simple. He wanted to empower the younger generation of the Ning family to double their cultivation. I've heard of empowerment. Brother Yu, do you want to empower us? Brother Yu, we also want to improve our cultivation as soon as possible and contribute to the Ning family. Hearing Ning Yu mention empowerment, many of the younger generation of the Ning family were in a heated discussion. Ning Yu had become the idol of the younger generation of the Ning family. You only know one thing, but not the other. Ning Yu felt that this group of people were too excited. He had to let them know the dangers of the blessing. Although the success rate of empowerment is relatively high, if your physique is not up to standard, forcefully empowerment will only lead to death. Everyone come over here. I want to check everyone one by one. Those whose physiques do not meet the requirements cannot be imparted. Sha. Since Ning Yu had spoken, the younger generation of Ning Yu did not dare to be negligent. One by one, they lined up and walked towards Ning Yu. The first one to arrive in front of Ningyu was Ningcheng, who was at the advanced stage of the Hotian realm. Ningyu placed his right hand on Ningcheng's shoulder and closed his eyes. A wisp of soul force gushed out and entered Ningcheng's body through his right hand. Ningcheng didn't even dare to breathe loudly as he waited for his fate to befall him. Pass. Go to the side. Someone will help you. As Ningyu spoke, Ningcheng heaved a sigh of relief and a look of ecstasy appeared on his face. The metal-devouring demon lion and the others were very smart. When Ningyu mentioned empowerment, they knew why Ningyu had called them over. The first one to help Ningcheng was the metal-devouring demon lion. He put his hands on Ningcheng's back and frantically poured energy into Ningcheng's body. Bang! Not long after, a muffled sound came from Ningcheng's body. Peak of the Xiantian realm. At this moment, Ningcheng advanced from the advanced stage of the Hotian realm to the peak of the Xiantian realm. I advanced to the peak of the Xiantian realm. Feeling the majestic fluctuation of essence qi in his sea of consciousness, Ningcheng was a little dumbfounded. With his talent, it would be difficult for him to advance to the peak of the Xiantian realm in his lifetime. At this moment, he felt like he was dreaming. Ningcheng, hurry up and thank the metal-devouring demon lion. Ning, he scolded, don't get carried away now. When you advance to the true martial realm in the future, you will turn the world upside down. Ning, he was very clear that as the Ning family gained more and more resources, the cultivation of the Ning family would also rise. Just like he had never thought that the Ning family would dominate Tianqian City. Thank you, senior metal-devouring demon lion. Thank you, brother Yu. Being scolded by Ningcheng hurriedly said, well, you go and familiarize yourself first. Don't make any moves during this period. Ningyu waved his hand, indicating that Ningcheng didn't have to do so. It was natural for him to make some contributions to the family when his cultivation had improved. Ning, you didn't want everyone to criticize him behind his back. Next. With Ningcheng as a successful example, many of the younger generation were eager to try. Of course, not everyone's physique could be empowered. Some people succeeded, some people failed. Some people were happy and some people were sad. In general, everything was going on in an orderly manner. There weren't too many young people in the Ning family. In less than an hour, the Ning family had checked everyone. Among more than 30 young martial artists, 10 were unqualified and 20 were qualified. These 20 qualified martial artists had all been empowered. According to their physiques, the improvement of their cultivation was also different. Grandfather, your cultivation is at the peak of the primal core realm. Let the sword of evil empower you. After all the young people had been properly handled, Ningyu looked at Ninghe and said, the situation in Tianqian City will become more and more complicated, and there will be more and more experts. As the head of the family, it's a bit unreasonable that your cultivation is only at the peak of the primal core realm. No need, I'm an old man. Leave the opportunity to the young people. Ning, he hurriedly declined. After 3 hours of empowerment, Ning, he advanced to the peak of the primal core realm. In the past, Ning, he didn't even think about the cultivation of the peak of the primal core realm, and he was very satisfied. Hearing Ninghe's words, the surrounding members of the Ning family all stared at Ningyu, their faces full of expectation. Humph! Ningyu snorted coldly and slightly exerted his aura. If you only want to rely on empowerment to improve your cultivation, the Ning family will soon collapse. Ningyu said, if a family wants to prosper, it must form an effective competition mechanism. Otherwise, it will soon decline. Ningyu's words made everyone feel ashamed. Indeed, they had been blinded by the empowerment, and they only wanted to rely on empowerment to improve their cultivation. Ha! I didn't expect the peerless genius of the Ning family, Ningyu, to have such an attractive side. At this moment, a faint voice sounded from the entrance of the martial arts arena. Following that, 2 figures appeared in everyone's vision. It's you. Looking at the familiar figures, Ningyu frowned slightly. These two figures were none other than Supremacy of Talisman Marshal and Yunmu. Ningyu, how have you been? After a while, Supremacy of Talisman Marshal and Yunmu came to stand beside Ningyu. Supremacy of Talisman Marshal said, I am here to inform you of 3 things. Supremacy of Talisman Marshal went straight to the point and didn't beat around the bush. First, Patriarch Blood Demon and Shen, 2, have not left Tianqian City. They are currently hiding in a secret place, and only I know of that place. Second, East War Supremacy has found the closest elixir cavern to Tianqian City and has brought out a large number of supreme elixir puppets. I believe that tomorrow you will have a fierce battle. As for the third, Chapter 1064. Heart-seizing pill, grandfather. I have some matters to attend to. Ningyu understood what the talisman supremacy meant and said to Ning He, Whoosh! Let's go. Ning, he was not an unreasonable person. With a wave of his hand, he led the younger generation of the Ning family and many elders to disperse in a hubbub. Not long after, only a few people were left in the originally noisy martial arts practice field. Tell me, what's the third news? After everyone left, Ningyu looked at the talisman supremacy and said, The main reason I came this time is to make a deal with you. The talisman supremacy was not in a hurry to say the third news. Instead, he said indifferently, As long as you agree, I can help you block the blood demon ancestor and Shintahao. As for the remaining Eastern War Supremacy, you have to deal with it yourself. Don't dawdle. What deal? Ningyu said in a low voice. Haha, it's actually very simple. The talisman Supremacy smiled and took out a jade bottle from his bosom. Swallow this medicinal pill, and I will help you block the blood demon ancestor and Shintahao. You've been following us for so long. You can't be plotting against us, right? Before Ningyu could speak, the Dark Emperor said coldly, You want Ningyu to swallow a random medicinal pill. Do you think we're easy to bully? Boom! The Dark Emperor's words made the expressions of the surrounding people very ugly. Among them, the Sword of Evil and Earthshaker even released their auras and pressed towards the talisman supremacy. Ningyu, is this how you treat your guests? The talisman supremacy's expression was very ugly as he said in a low voice, I've always been very friendly to my friends, but... At this point, Ningyu paused for a moment, then said, I'm also very cruel to my enemies. Ha ha ha. Talisman supremacy was taken aback at first before he laughed maniacally. Young hero Ning, you sure know how to joke. I have no ill intentions coming to you this time. I just want to cooperate with you. You should also know that Yunmu and I used to be people from the 9-Furnace Divine Pavilion, and we hate Shin Tu to the core. As the saying goes, the enemy of an enemy is a friend. If you and Shen Tu have a conflict, we definitely won't sit idly by. There are 2 pills in this jade bottle that can raise essence. Since you don't believe me, I'll swallow them for you to see. With that said, Talisman Martial Supremacy poured out a medicinal pill from the jade bottle and swallowed it in front of Ningyu. Kacha! When the medicinal pill entered his mouth, Talisman Martial Supremacy chewed twice before swallowing it into his stomach. I can devour the elixir, but before that I want to know why a 5th-grade sovereign like you is so confident that you can withstand the blood ghost ancestor and Shintahao. After receiving the jade bottle from the Talisman Martial Venerable, Ningyu did not consume it immediately. I'm relying on them. Talisman Martial Supremacy's brows twitched. Shortly after, she took out a storage pouch from her bosom and threw it on the ground. Rumble. In the next instant, the storage pouch suddenly exploded, and 2 colossal figures appeared before everyone's eyes. Puppets! Looking at the 2 puppets that suddenly appeared before them, everyone, including Ningyu, and even the Sword of Evil and Earthshaker had a huge change in their expressions as they were extremely shocked. The reason why the Earthshaker and the Sword of Evil were so shocked was because the aura emitted by the two puppets was simply too powerful. 7th grade Sovereign Realm Intermediate Phase. They were two puppets at the 7th grade Intermediate Human Supreme Master Realm. How is it? Can the two of them withstand the attacks of the Blood Ghost Ancestor and Shintahao? Talisman Martial Supremacy was very satisfied with everyone's reaction. The corner of her mouth curled up. As long as these two puppets are here, the Blood Ghost Ancestor and Shintahao will not be able to take half a step into the Ning family. You only need to withstand the Eastern War Sovereign and the other Danwu to ensure your safety. It's indeed very tempting. After a moment of silence, Ningyu said, however, every time these two puppets launch an attack, the energy they consume is estimated to be extremely huge. Even if I add all the crystals I have on me, I won't be able to sustain them for half an hour. You can't be thinking that Shintahao and the Blood Ghost Ancestor will only stay in front of the Ning family for half an hour, right? I've already thought of this. Talisman Martial Supremacy was not worried at all. She continued, as long as you consume the elixir in the jade bottle, I can provide you with energy. A large amount of energy can sustain the two puppets for at least 3 days. 3 days. Ning Yu's brows twitched. He was faintly moved. The energy needed to sustain a middle phase, 7th grade sovereign for 3 days was extremely huge. His initial estimation was at least a few 100,000 royal grade origin crystals. From the Talisman Martial Supremacy, Ning Yu did not sense any aura of royal grade origin crystals. How could he believe the Talisman Martial Supremacy? There's only one chance. You have to grasp it well. Seeing Ning Yu's hesitation, the Talisman Martial Supremacy continued. If you don't believe me, I can swear to the heavens that I will definitely protect the Ning family and not let the Blood Ghost Ancestor and Shintahao take half a step into the Ning family. Indeed, you're up to no good. You want to use this elixir to control me. Ning Yu did not pay attention to what the Talisman Martial Supremacy was saying. At this moment, Ning Yu's attention was completely placed on the elixir. Pinnacle 8th grade elixir, the heart-reaping elixir. Any cultivator below the 8th grade sovereign realm would be under the control of others the moment they consumed this heart-reaping elixir. There's a total of 2 heart-reaping elixirs. Whoever consumes the antidote first will be able to control the other person. With a thought, Ningyu said without any change in his expression, Talisman Martial Supremacy. Before I consume the elixir, can I spar with you? Spar with me? The Talisman Martial Supremacy could not understand what Ningyu was trying to do. In terms of strength, a 5th grade sovereign realm like her wasn't Ningyu's opponent. She was strong because she had many trump cards. Aside from the 2 middle phase, 7th grade sovereign realm puppets that she had just released, she still had a trump card puppet. The cultivation of that trump card puppet had reached the late phase, 7th grade sovereign realm. What's wrong? Could it be that the Talisman Martial Supremacy is afraid of a 1st grade sovereign realm like me? Ning Yu faintly smiled. It's impossible for me to be afraid. I'm just thinking of how not to hurt you. The Talisman Martial Supremacy said. Good. Straightforward indeed. 3 moves. Let's spar 3 moves. As long as you can withstand 3 moves from me, I'll devour it into my stomach. Ning Yu waved the jade bottle in his hand, then rose from the ground and charged towards the Talisman Martial Supremacy. Presumptuous. The Talisman Martial Supremacy's face turned ugly from being mocked by Ningyu. With a low roar, the Talisman Martial Supremacy poured the energy in his sea of consciousness into his wrist, then threw a punch that collided with Ningyu's fist. Swish! Swish! After a single move, the 2 figures were sent flying. Just from this move alone, Ningyu and the Talisman Martial Supremacy were evenly matched. No one could do anything to the other. Chapter 1065. 100 Flowers Palace. When Ning Yu said those words, the Talisman Venerable's face turned extremely ugly. Mockery. Naked mockery. Ning Yu's words were completely mocking her. Humph. Your strength is only so. With a cold snort, the Talisman Venerable launched his attack before Ning Yu did. Sword of Evil, Ning Yu and the Talisman Venerable. Who is it? Earthshaker hesitated as he watched the battle between Ning Yu and the Talisman Venerable. Isn't that obvious? Of course, Ning Yu will win. Before the Sword of Evil could reply, the Dark Emperor curled his lips and said, It's not like you don't know Ning Yu's strength. Not to mention a 5th grade sovereign. Even a 6th grade sovereign wouldn't be able to pose a threat to him. The spiritual rune, Venerable, has the pride of a 6th grade sovereign. But wasn't he still devoured by Ning Yu? As long as Ning Yu is willing, the Talisman Venerable won't be able to last more than 3 moves. Hearing the Dark Emperor's words, Earthshaker felt a little awkward. Actually, what Earthshaker was worried about was whether Ning Yu would devour the elixirs in the jade bottle. As for whether Ning Yu could win, Earthshaker wasn't too worried. Don't worry. Ning Yu knows what to do. He knows what to do. The Sword of Evil's tone was emotionless as he spoke. Bang! At this moment, Ning Yu and the Talisman Venerable separated for the second time. Compared to the previous time, the Talisman Venerable retreated a lot further this time. I used 50% of my strength for the first move, 80% for the second move, and 100% for the third move. Ning Yu shook his slightly swollen wrist. Then his figure gradually became illusory and disappeared in an instant. Even if you use 100% of your strength, it's impossible for you to defeat me. With a low shout, the Talisman Martial Supremacy gathered all the primordial chi in his body on his right hand and blasted it through the air. Chi. Supremacy Talisman Martial's punch was extremely powerful. The tightly shut space crackled under her bombardment. Talisman Supremacy, I'm over here. Just as Talisman Martial Supremacy punched out, Ning Yu appeared behind her. Whoosh! Ning Yu's right hand suddenly stretched out and streaked across the Talisman Martial Supremacy's waist. Damn it! The sudden change caused the Talisman Supremacy's expression to change drastically, and he hurriedly threw a punch with all his strength. Kacha! Supremacy Talisman Martial's punch was the most powerful punch she could unleash at her current stage. Space ruptured, and terrifying shockwaves covered the sky as they rushed towards Ning Yu. Talisman Martial Supremacy, thank you for your antidote. Ning Yu completely ignored the shockwaves coming from his surroundings. He first swallowed the heart-reaping pill into his mouth, then took out the antidote he obtained from the Talisman Martial Supremacy's body. Puppet! Seeing that Ning Yu was about to swallow the antidote, the Talisman Martial Supremacy yelled out and hurriedly threw out a storage pouch. Boom! The storage pouch exploded with a loud bang, and a late-stage Grade 7 Supremacy Realm puppet appeared in the Ning family's training field. Haha! Talisman Martial Supremacy, isn't it a little too late for you to invite it out now? Ning Yu smiled faintly, then threw the antidote into his mouth. Kacha! Following a crisp sound, the antidote was completely refined by Ning Yu. Stop! After refining the antidote, Ning Yu's eyes became incomparably cold as he berated. Sha! Sha! After Ning Yu swallowed the antidote, the Talisman Martial Supremacy's body stiffened and completely disobeyed his own orders. Step by step, he walked towards Ning Yu. Heart-reaping pill, a peak grade 8 medicinal pill. Ning Yu stared at the Talisman Martial Supremacy with interest and said, There are a total of 2 heart-reaping pills. Whoever swallows the antidote first can control the other person. However, the prerequisite is that both people have to swallow the heart-reaping pill. The reason you're willing to spar with me is because you want me to swallow the heart-reaping pill. Then you'll swallow the antidote and control me. Impossible, Absolutely impossible. How do you know about the heart-reaping pill? The talisman, martial supremacy, was shocked. The heart-reaping pill was a unique medicinal pill of the 100-Flower Palace, apart from the upper echelons of the 100-Flower Palace. Not many people knew about it. She had already investigated Ning Yu's background. Ever since he was born, he had never left the great Xia kingdom. Ning Yu knew about the heart-reaping pill? She couldn't believe it no matter what. Nothing is impossible. I'm an alchemy prodigy and I know many medicinal pills. Ning Yu shrugged and said, not only do I know about a peak grade 8 medicinal pill like the heart-reaping pill, I've even refined it myself. Bah! The talisman martial supremacy spat and said, who doesn't know how to boast? Your soul force is only at the middle stage of grade 7. So how could you possibly refine a peak grade 8 heart-reaping pill? I don't want to say anything unnecessary. Let me ask you now, where did you come from? Ning Yu waved his hand and asked. During the last trip to the magical Beast Mountain Range, Ning Yu clearly remembered that the talisman martial supremacy and Yun Mu had been sucked into the magic treasure cave. But in the magic treasure cave, he didn't find the two of them. This sort of situation left Ning Yu very puzzled. Aren't you already very clear? We come from the 9-furnace divine pavilion. When we entered the Beast King Palace, we automatically separated ourselves from the 9-furnace divine pavilion. The talisman martial supremacy replied, looks like you won't shed a tear until you see the coffin. Since the talisman martial supremacy didn't want to speak the truth, Ning Yu simply didn't want to communicate with her. He directly controlled the heart-reaping pill in her body to take effect. The effects of the heart-reaping pill were powerful to a terrifying extent. The talisman martial supremacy only felt as if there were thousands of ants in his body, tearing at his organs. This sort of pain and agony was not something that a normal person could endure. Ning Yu, let go of Aunt Yin, and I'll tell you. Seeing the talisman martial supremacy's pained appearance, Yun Mu hurriedly said, Yun Mu, if you dare to say it out, be careful that I... Seeing that Yun Mu wanted to reveal their identities, the talisman martial supremacy immediately berated him. However, the talisman martial supremacy was like a clay bodhisattva crossing a river at this time. She couldn't even protect herself. Before her voice fell, she rolled on the ground in pain. If you dare to interrupt again, I'll make you suffer 10,000 times more than what you're suffering now. Ning Yu glared fiercely at the talisman martial supremacy, and then he said to Yun Mu, speak. Where are you from? What's your identity? What's your objective? Tell me everything. Ning Yu, if I tell you, can you let go of Aunt Yin? Said Yun Mu. I don't want to say the same thing twice. Ning Yu's expression turned gloomy as he said, you still have one last chance. Ning Yu had always been on guard against the talisman martial supremacy and Yun Mu. Although they didn't ruthlessly kill him, they surely didn't have good intentions. Ning Yu had always been ruthless when dealing with people like this, and he wouldn't let them off just because they were women. Truthfully speaking, if it wasn't for the fact that Ning Yu knew that the heart-reaping pill was a medicinal pill unique to the Flower Palace, he would have executed the talisman martial supremacy on the spot based on her performance today. Why would he still be chattering with her here? Because in his previous lifetime, Ning Yu had a rather good relationship with the Flower Palace. Chapter 1066. Emperor-grade origin crystal were from the Flower Palace. Ning Yu's expression was extremely frightening, as if he wanted to eat someone alive. Yun Mu didn't dare to be negligent and hurriedly said, Auntie Yun is an elder of the 100-Flower Palace, and I am a disciple of the 100-Flower Palace. The reason we left the 100-Flower Palace to hide in the 9-furnace Divine Pavilion is because the palace master has suffered a heavy injury and urgently needs a peerless genius as a furnace to recover. And you, unfortunately, were chosen by us. The Centauria Palace mistress suffered heavy injuries? How did your palace lord get injured? Ningyu frowned slightly. In the Mystic Moon continent, the 100-Flower Palace was a level higher than the Corpse Sect and the Blood God Palace. Its status was equivalent to that of the Supreme Nine Purities Temple. Palatial Lord Centauria was extremely powerful. There were very few people in the Mystic Moon continent who could injure the palace master. I don't know either. Yunmu shook his head and said, all I know is that the Flower Palace has practically moved out in full force this time, and their objective is to find peerless geniuses that meet the requirements and bring them back to heal the palace master. Humph! If you don't tell the truth, be careful of your head rolling on the ground. Ningyu coldly snorted. Soon after, he swung the red demon's sword in his hand and placed it on Yunmu's shoulder. Ningyu was well aware of Palatial Lord Centauria's character. Using a peerless genius to heal? You would never believe it. Ningyu, don't waste your breath. Even though you're able to control us, the experts of the Flower Palace nearby the Grand Xia Kingdom will swarm over in a few hours. At that time, it'll be impossible for you to escape. Venerable Talisman Marshal said coldly with a vicious look in his eyes. Pa 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 pa. As soon as the Talisman Marshal Supremacy finished speaking, the Dark Emperor transformed into an afterimage and slapped a few times. You're about to die, yet you still dare to be so stubborn. We would have cut you into pieces before the experts of the Flower Palace arrived. The Dark Sovereign smiled evilly as he sized up the Talisman Marshal Supremacy and said sinisterly, I think your figure is not bad. Hee hee. I believe the people of Tianqian City will be very happy to see your figure. Bah! Despicable, shameless villain. No, it's a shameless dog. The Talisman Marshal Supremacy was trembling with anger. She was a woman, and the Dark Emperor saying such words in front of her made her lungs explode with anger. I am shameless. The Dark Emperor pointed at his nose and said, What a joke! The two of you have been following behind us and even wanted to use such a vicious pill like the heart-seizing pill to control Ningyu. I did not kill you first. Rape. Then kill. It is already benevolent. Despicable. The Talisman Marshal, Venerable, snorted coldly before turning around to look at Ningyu. Ningyu, I didn't expect you to be such a person. Tell me the truth. Ningyu's face was expressionless as he said indifferently, The truth is, in a few more hours you will be completely annihilated, ha ha ha. Talisman Marshal Supremacy shouted like a madman. The Talisman Supremacy's reaction made Ningyu furrow his brows tightly. Logically speaking, if the Talisman Marshal Supremacy's and Yunmu's positions in the Flower Palace were ordinary, then the Talisman Marshal Supremacy would definitely not act like this. Since the Talisman Marshal Supremacy's reaction was very intense, and there were a few times when Yunmu wanted to speak but stopped, that meant that the Talisman Marshal Supremacy and Yunmu's positions in the Flower Palace were definitely very high. Holy Maiden, Ningyu turned his head to look at the two middle stage 7th grade puppets and the late stage 7th grade puppet beside him. These two words emerged in his mind. The Flower Palace was filled with women. Moreover, the next palace master of the Flower Palace would be chosen from amongst the holy daughters. Every single holy maiden had a powerful elder by her side. The higher the ranking of the holy maiden in the Flower Palace, the stronger the elder by her side. Although the Talisman Marshal Supremacy's cultivation was only at the 5th grade mortal sovereign realm, the 3 puppets that she brought along were extremely heaven-defying. Yunmu is definitely the holy maiden of the Flower Palace, and her ranking amongst the holy maidens won't be too low. Ningyu fell into deep thought. Although he had a pretty good relationship with the palace master in his previous life, he was extremely displeased that the Talisman Marshal Supremacy wanted to control him in this life. Ningyu, it's not suitable to kill the two of them now. The Sword of Evil was extremely astute, and he knew that Ningyu intended to kill the Talisman Marshal Supremacy when he saw the change in Ning Yu's expression. We don't know the status of the talisman martial supremacy and Yun Mu in the Flower Palace. If it's really as they said, and the experts of the Flower Palace arrive in a few hours, then we'll lose more than we gain if we kill them now. The Sword of Evil continued. In my opinion, we should control them first and see if we can kill them when the experts of the Flower Palace arrive. That makes sense. Actually, Ningyu had such a plan as well. However, Ningyu didn't show it. Now that the Sword of Evil mentioned it, he just happened to have a way out. Dark Emperor, I'll leave the 2 mid-stage, 7th grade puppets to you. Ningyu pointed at the 2 puppets and said, no matter what, you must master how to use the puppets within an hour. That's easy. The problem is that they don't have energy. The Dark Emperor was slightly worried. Even if he controlled the puppets, it would be useless without energy. They would be no different from a pile of trash. Don't worry about energy. We can find it on the talisman martial supremacy. As he spoke, Ningyu's mind stirred and controlled talisman martial supremacy to take out all the essence crystals on him. Ningyu, you'll die a horrible death. The talisman martial supremacy cursed Ningyu as he took out the storage pouch on him and tossed it to the Dark Emperor. Slap! The Dark Emperor checked the amount of crystals within the storage pouch after he received it, and then he nodded and said, it's barely enough. This should be enough for me to control the 2 puppets for a long time. Uft! Hearing the Dark Emperor's words, the talisman martial supremacy nearly vomited a mouthful of blood. There were 100,000 royal grade origin crystals in the storage pouch. So many crystals, and the Dark Emperor actually said that it was barely enough? That was simply unreasonable. The Dark Emperor didn't care about what the talisman martial supremacy was thinking. He happily left with the storage pouch and the 2 mid-stage 7th grade puppets, intending to find a quiet place to control the puppets. Sword of Evil, I'll leave the late-stage 7th grade puppet to you. Seeing the Dark Emperor leave, Ningyu said to the Sword of Evil, leave it for yourself. The Sword of Evil said, the Blood Demon Ancestor, Shintahao, and the Eastern War Sovereign are all initial stage 7th grade sovereigns. When they come over, I can only deal with one of them. The other 2 will definitely go after you and the Dark Emperor. The Dark Emperor has 2 mid-stage 7th grade puppets. They should be able to deal with Shintahao. With your strength, you won't be able to deal with the Eastern War Sovereign without the help of the puppets. Furthermore, the Eastern War Sovereign will bring a large number of elixir puppets over. You have to be responsible for protecting the Ning family, and the burden on your shoulders is heavy. Chapter 1067. The Saintess Emperor Grade Origin Crystal. The Sword of Evil's eyes burned with passion when he heard the words Emperor Grade Origin Crystal. What's wrong? Ning Yu was confused by the Sword of Evil's reaction. Although Emperor Grade Origin Crystals were precious, it shouldn't have caused such a huge reaction. It's nothing. Taking a deep breath, the Sword of Evil said, ask the Talisman Supremacy how many Emperor Grade Origin crystals she has. There's no need to ask. Ningyu waved his hand and used the heart-reaping pill to order the Talisman Supremacy to hand over all the Emperor Grade Origin crystals she had. Whoosh! The Talisman Supremacy's hands did not listen to her at all. She took out a storage bag and tossed it to Ningyu. After catching the storage bag, Ningyu sent a wisp of his perception into it. Ningyu was overjoyed at first. Then his expression turned solemn. The change in Ningyu's expression completely affected the Sword of Evil. At first, the Sword of Evil was excited to see Ningyu. However, as Ningyu's expression turned solemn, the Sword of Evil's heart sank. Emperor Grade Origin crystals were very helpful for the Sword of Evil to recover to his peak. The Sword of Evil was an early stage, 7th grade, human supreme. 10 Emperor Grade Origin crystals could help him recover to mid-stage, 7th grade in a short period of time. or even peak mid-stage 7th grade. If he had 20 Emperor-grade origin crystals, he could even restore his cultivation to the late 7th grade human supreme realm within an hour. Ningyu, how many Emperor-grade origin crystals are there? Even though the nefarious sword exalted was feeling conflicted, he still asked. Not too many, only 20 Emperor-grade origin crystals. Ningyu shook his head, slightly dissatisfied. Who? Hearing this, the sword of evil spat out a mouthful of turbid air. The burning look on his face became even more obvious. 20 Emperor-grade origin crystals were more than enough for him to recover to the late 7th grade sovereign realm. At his peak, the sword of evil was a peak 8th grade human supreme. Originally, the sword of evil thought that he would need at least a few years to restore his cultivation to its peak. Now, it seemed that Ningyu was his lucky star. According to the current situation, he would probably be able to recover his cultivation to the pinnacle 8th grade sovereign realm in less than a year. Ningyu, these crystals! After the ecstasy, the sword of evil calmed down. He wanted to say something, but hesitated, feeling a little conflicted. 20 Emperor-grade origin crystals was not a small number. With so many Emperor-grade origin crystals, how could he ask Ningyu for them? Would Ningyu give them to him? Sword of evil, I can't give you all of these 20 Emperor-grade origin crystals. I need to keep 2 to activate the late 7th grade puppet. How could Ningyu not know what the sword of evil was thinking? He took out 2 Emperor-grade origin crystals and threw them to the sword of evil together with his storage bag. Ningyu, words cannot express my gratitude. Aye, blood demon ancestor. Shintahao, leave it to me. As long as they dare to come to the Ning family, I will make sure that they will not be able to return. The sword of evil wanted to say some words of gratitude, but he swallowed them and said, with 18 Emperor-grade origin crystals, I have an 80% chance of recovering to the late 7th grade human supreme realm. Go and recover first. I will call you if there is anything. Ningyu waved his hand, indicating that the sword of evil could leave first. Whoosh! The sword of evil did not waste time here. With Ningyu's approval, he immediately tore apart the void and disappeared. Earthshaker, your task is very difficult. You must be responsible for the safety of the Ning family and the metal-devouring demon lion. After a moment of silence, Ningyu took out an Emperor-grade origin crystal and said, I will leave this Emperor-grade origin crystal to you, but you must remember your mission. Don't worry, as long as I am alive, I will not let you down. The Earthshaker knew that the situation was very dangerous. He took the Emperor-grade origin crystal and disappeared with the 8-legged centipede. At this point, only Ningyu, the Talisman Supremacy, and Yunmu were left in this area. Cough, cough. After coughing twice, Ningyu continued, Talisman Supremacy, if I have guessed correctly. Your position in the 100-flower palace is extremely high. At the very least, you should be an 80-flower elder. What? The Talisman Supremacy's expression changed drastically. She was shocked that you could say the words 80-flower elder. In the 100-flower palace, only the internal members would know about the ranking of elders. Elder Yihua was the lowest-ranked elder in the sect. After that, it was 10th flower elder, 20th flower elder, all the way to 100-flower elder. Even in the history of the 100-flower palace, the Talisman Supremacy could become an 80-flower elder with a cultivation of 5th grade mortal sovereign. Just who are you? How do you know about the internal ranking of the 100-flower palace? The Talisman Supremacy said coldly, Yunmu should be ranked in the top 3 amongst the holy maidens of the 100-flower palace. Without answering the Talisman Supremacy, Ningyu continued, Just who are you? Ningyu's understanding of the 100-flower palace made the Talisman Supremacy have a bad feeling in his heart. Speaking of which, I have some relationship with the 100-flower palace. Ningyu used the great deception art and continued, My master has a pretty good relationship with the palace master of the 100-Flower Palace, and he has told me many things about the 100-Flower Palace. Your master has a pretty good relationship with our palace master. The talisman supremacy was briefly stunned before he revealed shock on his face and said in disbelief, "Could it be that your master is—" "Impossible. The palace master said that her friend has already fallen. With your current age, it's impossible for you to be that person's disciple. Stop guessing. My master is still alive, and you won't be able to guess who he is in your entire lifetime." Ning Yu continued, "My master has a good understanding of the 100-Flower Palace's master. Even if she's heavily injured, she will definitely not find a peerless genius to be her cauldron to recover. Stop wasting time. With my master's relationship with the palace master, he will definitely think of a way to head to the 100-Flower Palace if the palace master encounters any mishaps. Right." As he spoke until here, Ning Yu briefly paused before he continued, "My master's cultivation isn't at the mortal sovereign realm." Hiss! The talisman supremacy inhaled a mouthful of chilled air as his face was dark and indeterminate. He was having an intense battle in his heart. To say it or not to say it, that was the question. Roughly 5 minutes later, the talisman supremacy said in a solemn voice, "Ning Yu, I'll tell you the truth. 10 years ago, a mysterious expert suddenly barged into the palace master's chamber and took control of her. Although that expert was injured, he was extremely powerful. Back then, the princess was an Earth sovereign realm, but she wasn't the opponent of that expert. Aside from the palace master, there are still many grand elders in the 100-Flower Palace." Ning Yu said in doubt, "There's no reason for those grand elders to not make an appearance." Sigh, don't mention it. 3 months after the palace master was taking control, we received news that all the grand elders of the 100-Flower Palace were killed. Not a single one was left. Chapter 1068. I don't mind. Not a single one left. Hearing this, Ning Yu was stunned at first. Then he revealed a look of disbelief. The 100-Flowers Palace was an existence comparable to the Supreme Nine Purities Temple. The supreme elders inside were extremely powerful, and even the weakest among them was a high-level human sovereign. If even they were killed without anyone noticing, one could imagine how powerful that mysterious person was. That's right, not a single one is left. The talisman supremacy nodded and said, "From then on, the palace lord gave us a standard and asked us to find a suitable genius martial artist in the Mystic Moon continent according to that standard. Whoever finds a genius martial artist who meets the standard first will be the next palace lord." Fool! Ning Yu's face instantly turned gloomy when he heard the talisman exalted, and he berated. Where there were people, there would be Jiang Hu. The talisman martial exalt had actually stupidly exposed that they'd found a genius martial artist that fulfilled the criteria. Wasn't this clearly telling the other experts of the Flower Palace that they could come over and seize him? In front of the temptation of the next palace lord, no one could remain calm. Roughly how long will the other experts of the 100-Flowers Palace take to arrive? Ning Yu glared at Venerable Talisman Marshal and said in a deep voice, "The slowest is 3 to 4 hours. The fastest." The Talisman Marshal Supremacy was not a fool. He quickly realized the severity of the problem. Indeed, as Ning Yu had said, where there were people, there would be Jiang Hu. This wasn't the Flower Palace, and there were no restrictions here. Whoever was stronger and had the hardest fist was the one who had the final say. Moreover, it was the temptation of becoming the next palace lord. Who could remain indifferent? Whoosh! Whoosh! However, before Talisman Marshal Venerable finished speaking, his expression changed drastically, and he looked at the entrance of the training field. At the entrance of the martial arts practice field, 2 young women dressed in purple slowly appeared in everyone's line of sight. "It's you!" Venerable Talisman Marshal was obviously very familiar with the two purple-clad women. Haha, Talisman Marshal Supremacy, you are really stupid. So stupid that it's adorable. The two young women instantly stood before Venerable Talisman Marshal Supremacy, and the one on the left smiled. We just happened to pass by the profound Sky City and received your message, so we immediately came together. If I have guessed correctly, this young cultivator should be the one that you've mentioned, the peerless genius. If I have guessed correctly, this young cultivator should be the one that fits the criteria. The two of them were only ranked in the top 10 in the 100 Flowers Palace, and the elders that followed them were at most pinnacle 5th grade sovereign realm cultivators. Venerable Talisman Marshal didn't think that Ning, you wouldn't be able to deal with two pinnacle grade 5 human sovereigns. 7, how, and how, the 2 yen, 1, I, Tian, Marshal, the Tian yelled. The young woman on the left laughed. If you can successfully bring this brat back to the 100 Flowers Palace, wouldn't it be disastrous? That's right. Yun Mu is only a 3rd grade human sovereign. If he becomes the palace master of the 100 Flowers Palace, wouldn't the 100 Flowers Palace fall? The other young woman said sinisterly. Zhao, yeah, Wu Li, although I'm only a 3rd grade human sovereign, I'm more than enough to deal with 2 2nd grade human sovereigns. Yun Mu said coldly. Since that's the case, then let's give it a try. The 2 young ladies called Zhao, Ye, and Wu Li looked at each other before they rose from the ground and charged towards Yun Mu. Rumble. In the sky, Yun Mu and Zhao Ye were fighting. Zhao Ye and Wu Li were only 2nd grade human sovereigns, while Yun Mu was a 3rd grade human sovereign. Even if Zhao Ye and Wu Li joined hands, they wouldn't be able to contend against Yun Mu. Venerable Talisman Marshal Supremacy, there will be a large number of experts from the 100 Flowers Palace coming later. Should we kill them or leave them alive? Ning Yu's face was ugly. What did the 100 Flowers Palace treat the Ning family as? They disregarded his existence and openly fought here. After all, we're all from the 100 Flowers Palace. Venerable Talisman Marshal Supremacy clenched his teeth. What a woman's view! Ning, you coldly snorted as he interrupted Venerable Talisman Marshal Supremacy's words. Thereafter, he soared into the sky, and his body instantly fused with the void. In the next moment, Ning Yu appeared beside Zhao Ye and Wu Li. He waved his hands, bringing along an extremely violent gale of origin energy as he threw it towards Zhao Ye and Wu Li. The might of Ning Yu's 2 punches had reached the pinnacle. Even an ordinary 5th grade human sovereign might not be able to withstand it, not to mention Zhao Ye and Wu Li, who were only 2nd grade human sovereigns. Russell. Seeing Ning Yu's appearance, Yun Mu's figure flashed, and he instantly left. Since Ning Yu had made a move, then Zhao Ye and Wu Li wouldn't be able to escape death. Brat, you're too daring. You even dare to kill the holy maiden of the 100 Flowers Palace. You must be tired of living. Crack. However, before Ning Yu's fist could land on Zhao Ye and Wu Li, the space beside him suddenly split apart. A roar resounded from the void. Shortly after, 2 silhouettes threw a punch out from the left and right. Pinnacle 5th grade human sovereign. Ning Yu's perception was extremely powerful. In fact, when he made his move, he already knew that there were 2 silhouettes hidden in the void. However, he did not show it. Ning Yu was confident that he could deal with 2 pinnacle 5th grade human sovereigns. Universe Palm. With a low shout, Ning Yu waved his hands repeatedly, and 2 palm prints left his palms in a row. Not good. When the 2 pinnacle 5th grade human sovereigns saw the palm prints that were flying towards them, their faces drastically changed as they immediately retracted their fists and retreated. Boom! Boom! However, it was already too late for them to retreat. After Ning Yu raised his soul energy to middle 7th grade sovereign realm, the might of his universe palm had increased by a lot. Not to mention pinnacle 5th grade human sovereigns, even initial 6th grade human sovereigns might not be able to withstand Ning Yu's 2 palms. Uft, uft. A crisp sound rang out as the 2 pinnacle 5th grade human sovereigns spat out mouthfuls of blood. Their bodies were like broken kites as they fell into the distance. Swish, swish. Fortunately, Zhaoya and Wu Li reacted quickly and caught the 2 pinnacle 5th grade human sovereigns. Otherwise, the fall would be enough to turn them into idiots. Let's go! Since Zhaoya and Wu Li could become the saintess of the 100 Flowers Palace, they weren't stupid. They knew that there was no point in staying here, so they might as well leave now. Where do you think you're going? Letting a tiger return to the mountain would only lead to endless troubles. Ning Yu understood this logic. Slash! In the next instant, he drew out the red demon sword and slashed out several sword rays. Whoosh! Countless sword rays flew towards Zhaoya and Wu Li from all directions. Almost instantly, Zhaoya and Wu Li were drowned by the sword rays. Talisman supremacy. You wouldn't mind me getting rid of these people for you, right? Chapter 1069. Recovering, I don't mind, but Venerable Talisman Marshal looked at Zhaoya and the rest, who were engulfed by the sword radiance array. But what? Ning Yu frowned, vaguely feeling that something was amiss. But in 2 hours, there will be 3 6th grade human sovereigns, 2 middle grade 7th grade human sovereigns, and even 1 late grade 7th grade human sovereign. Venerable Talisman Marshal clenched his teeth. Are they elders of the 100 Flowers Palace? Ning Yu asked without batting an eyelid. Although Ning Yu did not show it on the surface, his heart was in turmoil. 2 hours later, there were 3 7th grade human sovereigns, and one of them was late grade 7th grade human sovereigns. Such a lineup could only be described as luxurious. There were wolves in front and tigers behind. There was nowhere to retreat. They had no choice but to fight. Ning Yu could not leave, nor could he leave. Once he left, Shen Tu Hao and the blood demon ancestor would definitely kill their way into the Ning family and slaughter them. They are all elders of the 100 Flowers Palace, and every one of them is extremely powerful. Venerable Talisman Marshal said solemnly, Let's recuperate here and deal with whatever comes our way. Ning Yu said solemnly, Let's go. That late grade 7th grade human sovereign is especially powerful. Seeing that Ning Yu wanted to stay, the Talisman Venerable immediately said, It said that when she was in the initial phase 7th grade sovereign realm, she had already killed a late phase 7th grade sovereign realm cultivator. Now that she has advanced to the late phase 7th grade sovereign realm, you can imagine that she can even confront a pinnacle 7th grade sovereign. Crack, crack, crack. Just then, the sword radiance array in the distance had ended. Zhaoya and the rest who were within the array were all minced into mincemeat by the powerful force. Recuperate here and prepare for battle in 2 hours. Ning Yu didn't pay any further attention to the talisman supremacy, and he found a quiet place to start devouring and refining the Emperor-grade origin crystal. Although he only had 2 hours, which was not enough to raise his cultivation to the 2nd grade sovereign realm, with the help of the Emperor-grade origin crystal, Ning Yu could still raise his strength by a small level. Aunt Yin, will there really be so many experts from the Flower Palace coming over 2 hours from now? Yun Mu asked hesitantly after Ning Yu left. Would I lie to you? Whether we're able to return to the Flower Palace alive this time is entirely dependent on Ning Yu, said the Talisman Exalt in a low voice. But didn't the Palace Lord already send experts over? Yun Mu was still a little confused. They had already sent the news back to the Centauria Palace, and the Centauria Palace Mistress had sent a few experts over to have them stabilize Ningyu first. The people sent by the palace lord will take at least 3 days to get here. Without Ningyu's help in these 3 days, we would have long been dead. A smear of coldness flashed in Venerable Talisman Marshall's eyes as he continued, I finally understand now. The palace lord has already been controlled by that expert, and the people she sends over will definitely kill us. What we need to do now is to follow closely behind Ningyu. Sigh. Thereafter, Venerable Talisman Marshall sighed, I never thought that we would end up like this. Aunt Yin, about the old prophet. Yunmu opened her mouth and wanted to say something, but she did not dare to speak after being glared at by Venerable Talisman Marshall. Hurry up and rest. We'll be fighting in 2 hours from now. Venerable Talisman Marshall said coldly, The old prophet is still the old prophet. Ning, you clearly heard Yun Mu's last sentence. Yun Mu was indeed a member of the Flower Palace. This was something that Ning you could be 100% sure of. However, whether or not Venerable Talisman Marshall was a member of the Flower Palace, and what her true identity was, Ningyu still had not completely figured it out until now. Although he used the heart-reaping pill to control Venerable Talisman Marshall, Ningyu did not dare to do anything overboard. In Venerable Talisman Marshall's body, Ningyu discovered a faintly discernible and terrifying energy. Once that terrifying energy erupted, the entire Ning family would be instantly razed to the ground. How terrifying! There's still 2 hours. No matter what, I have to improve my strength a little more. Ningyu knew what he had to face next. He took a deep breath, then sat down cross-legged and started circulating the spirit transformation technique to slowly refine the arch-grade origin crystal. Chi-chi, threads of vital energy, surged out from the arch-grade origin crystal and slowly entered Ningyu's body. In the enormous martial arts field, 3 places were especially eye-catching. Ningyu was refining the arch-grade origin crystal. The Dark Emperor was refining the 7th grade intermediate puppets with all his might. Venerable Talisman Marshall and Yun Mu were circulating their techniques to slowly recover. Everything seemed to be progressing in an orderly manner. Drip, drip. Time ticked by, and in the blink of an eye, an hour had passed. Swoosh! Just as the time passed, a figure emerged from the void. This figure was none other than the Sword of Evil. You've recovered to the 7th grade advanced stage human supremacy? Feeling the aura emanating from the Sword of Evil, Ningyu's eyes widened in shock. It's all thanks to the arch-grade origin crystal you gave me. The Sword of Evil knew that without the 18 arch-grade origin crystals Ningyu gave him, he would definitely not have been able to recover to the 7th grade advanced stage human supremacy within an hour. Now that his cultivation had recovered to the 7th grade advanced stage human supremacy, the Sword of Evil's strength had also improved by leaps and bounds. Now that he was up against Shintahao and the Blood Demon Ancestor, the Sword of Evil was confident that he could take on both of them at once and even kill them. Get ready, there's going to be a huge battle later. After a slight hesitation, Ningyu's consciousness entered the storage ring and looked at the sapling. It was only the size of half a fist. There was a shenyang pill hanging on the sapling, but it was rather small. It was an unformed shenyang pill. Taking out the shenyang pill, Ningyu threw it to the Sword of Evil and said, Take this half of the shenyang pill. You're the main fighting force. You can't drop the ball at the crucial moment. Shenyang pill. Looking at the half of the shenyang pill in his hand, the Sword of Evil's eyes revealed a fervent look. The shenyang pill was something even more awesome than the Emperor-grade origin crystal. With a complete shenyang pill, the Sword of Evil was confident that he could recover his cultivation to the 7th grade pinnacle stage human supremacy within a few hours. But at the same time, the Sword of Evil was also very clear. There would be a huge battle in an hour. It was too unrealistic for him to recover at this time. Drip. Time flew, and in the blink of an eye, another hour had passed. Ha ha ha. I've finally completely controlled these two puppets. Now, they only listen to my orders. Without even thinking, Ningyu knew that the person laughing was the Dark Emperor. To think that the Dark Emperor could still laugh after taking 2 hours to control the puppets. Ningyu, you haven't gone to control the 7th grade advanced stage puppet yet? The Dark Emperor came to Ningyu's side and looked at the 7th grade advanced stage puppet beside Ningyu. There was a hint of displeasure in his tone. Chapter 1070. Not a match, it's fine. It's just a puppet. I can control it with a wave of my hand. Ningyu knew that the Dark Emperor was doing this for his own good. He first gave the Dark Emperor a smile before he separated a portion of his soul force and sent it into the puppet. Humph, what's there to be proud about? I don't believe that you can. I'll control it with a wave of your hand. The Dark Emperor coldly snorted. However, before the Dark Emperor could finish his cold snort, he cursed out loud. Boom! Boom! The 7th grade late stage supreme martial artist, puppet, stepped on the ground and walked towards the Dark Emperor. Gulp! Looking at the puppet walking in his direction, the Dark Emperor couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. Isn't this a little too *ket up? 1 second? No, it should be 0. 1 second for Ningyu to control and late 7th grade sovereign realm puppet. Who would believe it if it was spread out? Dark Emperor, I told you not to worry, but you didn't believe me. Ningyu shrugged his shoulders. There's going to be a huge battle soon. Make your preparations, or you might be in danger. How can I be in danger? With 2 middle 7th grade sovereign realm puppets, I have nothing to fear even if a late 7th grade sovereign realm expert comes. The Dark Emperor twitched his lips. Is that so? As the Dark Emperor spoke, a faint voice slowly resounded. Crack! Shortly after, the space above the training ground was torn apart as a group of people appeared and descended onto the training ground. There were roughly a dozen of them, with the 6 at the front possessing extremely high cultivations. 3 6th grade sovereigns, 2 middle 7th grade sovereigns, and 1 late 7th grade sovereign. As the Talisman Venerable had expected, these experts had just arrived. Talisman Venerable, you've really embarrassed the 100 Flowers Palace. The palace master personally gave you puppets, and you actually gave them to someone else. The leading late phase 7th grade human sovereign raised the corner of his lips. There are 2 main reasons why we're here today. Firstly, to take away the peerless geniuses that fit the criteria. As for the second, at this point, the late-stage 7th grade supreme martial artist changed the topic and said coldly, I will kill you and Yun Mu while I'm at it. Exalt you. The Flower Palace has clearly stipulated that disciples of the same sect are prohibited from killing each other. Could it be that you intend to violate the rules of the sect? Talisman Martial Supremacy said coldly. Sect rules? Ha ha ha. Venerable Yu was stunned at first. Then he smiled evilly and said, If a random sect rule can bind me, how can I be the Palace Lord? Palace Lord personally instructed that the next sect master can only be the Saintess. How dare you make such a decision on your own? Supremacy Talisman Marshal was so angry that his teeth were about to shatter. In the Flower Palace, she'd always been firmly suppressed by Exalt You. Who would have thought that after leaving the 100 Flowers Palace, Venerable You would still be so domineering? Your name is Honorable You? At this moment, Ningyu took a step forward and said doubtfully, Fish have always swum in the water. Now that you're on land, you probably won't be able to cause much trouble. Grade 1 Human Supreme Realm. Not bad at all. Venerable You shifted his attention to Ningyu. If I bring you back to the Flower Palace, that mysterious expert might be happy and directly reward me with a few elixirs. allowing me to smoothly advance to the 8th grade human supreme realm. If you want to bring me back to the 100 Flowers Palace, we'll have to see if you have the ability. Ningyu's tone was emotionless as he said indifferently, "You're only a late-stage 7th grade human supreme realm. I have a late-stage 7th grade puppet and a late-stage 7th grade sword of evil. What do you have to fight against me? It's good to be confident, but sometimes overconfidence will turn into stupidity." As the word stupidity fell, Venerable Yu's figure instantly charged out and charged towards Ningyu at a shocking speed. At the same time, Venerable Yu unleashed all his aura and pressed towards Ningyu. Venerable Yu didn't want to kill Ningyu. She just wanted to teach Ningyu a lesson. She wanted to let Ningyu know that he had to keep his voice down when speaking to some people. Go. With a thought, Ningyu hurriedly controlled the puppet to fight Venerable Yu. Rumble. Venerable Yu and the puppet came into close contact. After one move, both of them took a few steps back. Judging from the distance, they retreated. The Venerable One and the puppet were about the same. Neither of them had the upper hand. Ningyu, do you think that's all there is to my strength? Venerable Yu seemed to know what Ningyu was thinking. He smiled and said, "You can send your senses into the puppet's body to check." Swoosh! Hearing that, Ningyu's heart skipped a beat. He knew that things were bad. Judging from Venerable Yu's words, the situation seemed to be a little special. With a thought, Ningyu split a bit of his senses and carefully entered the puppet's body. F***CK this crystal. The moment Ningyu's senses entered the puppet's body, he couldn't help but curse out loud. Whoosh! Suddenly, the puppet fell apart from the inside out. This change was clearly out of everyone's expectations. Venerable Talisman Marshal was even more dumbfounded on the spot, his face filled with confusion. This late-stage, 7th grade supremacy puppet was her trump card. No matter how bad it was, it shouldn't have been shattered by Venerable Yu in one move. Venerable Talisman Marshal, it's not just your puppet. I've even tampered with the other two. Everyone's reaction made Venerable Yu very satisfied. She pointed at the two puppets in front of the Dark Emperor and said sinisterly, "As long as I want to, I can turn those two puppets into dust at any time." Impossible. Venerable Talisman Marshal was about to jump up. The 3 puppets were all her trump cards, and she had personally picked them out from the treasury of the 100 Flower Palace. They were all tampered with by Venerable Yu? If that was really the case, didn't that mean that Venerable Yu had already obtained control over the treasury? Venerable Talisman Marshal's expression became extremely unsightly when he thought up to hear. Whoosh! Venerable Yu didn't disappoint Venerable Talisman Marshal. She flicked out 2 cold rays of light, and each of them shot towards a puppet. As soon as the cold rays entered the bodies of the puppets, the 2 mid-stage, 7th grade supremacy puppets shattered and turned into nothingness. Ningyu, you're the person I'm looking for this time. I won't kill you. I'll only bring you to the 100 Flower Palace and hand you over to a mysterious expert to deal with. Venerable Yu looked around, and her gaze first stopped on Ningyu for a few seconds before stopping on Venerable Talisman Marshal. She said, "Venerable Talisman Marshal, you won't be so lucky. Let me see what qualifications you have to become an elder of the 80 Flower Palace." What qualifications I have has nothing to do with you. In short, it won't be so easy for you to kill me today. Venerable Talisman Marshal's expression was gloomy. Could it be that you think these small fries can stop me? Chapter 1071. Venerable Yu, how would I know if I don't try? With a flick of his wrist, Venerable Sword Evil took out his Emperor-grade, low-grade flying sword and said in a deep voice, "There are quite a few late 7th grade human sovereigns that died in my hands. After today, there will be another one." Arrogant, Venerable Yu's eyes turned cold. He rose from the ground and dashed out. Rumble. The sword of evil and Venerable Yu fought on the martial arts practice field. When the sword of evil and Venerable Yu fought, Ningyu and the rest did not make a move and stood on the spot. However, Ningyu was extremely worried in his heart. The sword of evil and Venerable Yu's strength should be on par. It was impossible to determine a victor in a short period of time. This situation was clearly disadvantageous to Ningyu. On Venerable Yu's side, there were still 2 middle phase 7th grade sovereigns and 3 6th grade sovereigns. This fighting strength was sufficient to contend with a late phase 7th grade sovereign. Talisman Venerable, what other trump cards do you have? Take them all out. Now that things had come to this, Ningyu knew that he could only rely on the Talisman Venerable. If the Talisman Venerable had a trump card, then everyone would survive together. If he didn't, then everyone would die together. All right, after a brief pondering, the Talisman Venerable gritted his teeth. But I need your help. What do you need my help with? Ningyu was slightly stunned as he asked in puzzlement. Russell. The Talisman Venerable did not reply to Ningyu's words. Instead, she took out a jade bottle. The jade bottle did not contain elixirs, but a black medicinal liquid. This is the Berserk liquid. After consuming it, your strength will rise by 3 levels for a short period of time. The Talisman Venerable said in a ruthless voice. You're currently a 1st grade sovereign. After consuming this Berserk liquid, your cultivation will reach 4th grade sovereign for an hour. What are the side effects? Ningyu knew that such a heaven-defying elixir would definitely have a lot of side effects. There are side effects, and they are very serious. Talisman Martial Supremacy did not want to hide it from Ningyu. She said, in an hour, your entire body will go limp and powerless. If there's no large amounts of Yuan Qi injected into your body, you might even be paralyzed for the rest of your life. How much is a large amount of energy? Ningyu asked. Don't worry about that for now. What you need to worry about is how to endure the period of time when you swallow the Berserk liquid. The Talisman Martial Venerable One waved his hand and said, as for an hour later, I'll provide you with primordial qi to ensure your safety. My body's constitution is better, so I'm not afraid. Give me the Berserk fluid. Ningyu didn't think and directly stretched out his right hand. Ningyu's direct action shocked the Talisman Martial Supremacy. Aren't you afraid that I'll scheme against you? Talisman Martial Supremacy asked hesitantly. Hee, you still have the heart-seizing pill in your body. Even if you schemed against me, we're still even. With a faint smile, Ningyu directly took the jade bottle from the Talisman Supremacy's hand and poured the Berserk liquid inside into his mouth. Hiss! Just as the Berserk liquid entered his stomach, Ningyu's eyes widened. A tearing pain came from every part of his body. This kind of pain was even more horrifying than 10,000 ants biting his heart. Drip, drip. On Ningyu's forehead, bean-sized beads of sweat continuously dripped. If you can't endure it, just say it. I have a way to help you resolve it. The Talisman Martial Supremacy swallowed the Berserk liquid once in the past. That kind of sour and refreshing taste she knew. Furthermore, the Berserk liquid that Ningyu swallowed this time was several times more than what she swallowed previously. Aunt Yin, so much Berserk liquid. How can Ningyu possibly endure it? Seeing Ningyu's pained appearance, Yunmu hurriedly said, if Ningyu doesn't go and endure it, could it be that you're going to endure it? The Talisman Martial Supremacy glared at Yunmu fiercely and said coldly, Supremacy, you brought so many experts over, clearly wanting to put us to death. If you can't even endure this little bit of pain, then all of us have to die today. Swish! Right at this moment, Ningyu suddenly calmed down, as if everything had returned to normal. Failed! Ningyu's actions caused the Talisman Martial Supremacy to be a little dumbfounded. There's no reason for it to fail. Could it be that I took the wrong Berserk liquid? Thinking of this, the talisman martial supremacy hurriedly checked the remaining jade bottles on him. After a while, the talisman martial supremacy revealed a doubtful expression and muttered, "This doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. What I took out was the berserk liquid. It's definitely not wrong." Boom! The talisman martial supremacy was still confused. At the side, a terrifying aura soared into the sky from Ning Yu's body. Whoosh! The aura that surged out from Ning Yu's body attracted the gazes of the surrounding people. Grade 4, Human Sovereign. Sensing the powerful aura emanating from Ning Yu's body, even the talisman martial supremacy, who was prepared, could not help but be stunned. He knew that Ning Yu had only used the berserk liquid to raise his cultivation to grade 4 Human Sovereign for a short period of time. However, the talisman martial supremacy felt that the aura emanating from Ning Yu was much stronger than that of a grade 4 Human Sovereign. Damn it! What are you guys waiting for? Are you guys waiting to go home and eat? Hurry up and kill the talisman martial supremacy and Yun Mu and capture Ning Yu. When the aura from Ning Yu's body surged out, Venerable Yu could not help but look over. When Venerable Yu saw that the experts she brought with her were all standing on the spot and watching the show, she instantly raged. "Venerable Yu, you dare to be distracted while fighting me? Eat my fist." Venerable Swordsman's momentary distraction gave Venerable Swordsman the opportunity to throw a punch that contained a terrifying shockwave towards her head. Not good. Venerable Yu was, after all, a late grade 7 Human Sovereign. She immediately reacted and turned around to deal with the Sword of Evil. Go. After being reprimanded by Venerable Yu, the experts of the 100 Flowers Palace seemed to have been enlightened as they roared and charged towards Ning Yu. Slash! Ning Yu took a step forward, and the vigorous energy in his consciousness wrapped around the red demon sword as he slashed out a sword light. PSSSD! PSSSD! Even the air in the path of the sword light avoided it. Crack! Facing the incoming sword light, the 2 middle-grade 7 Human Sovereigns of the 100 Flowers Palace threw out a palm print and attacked the palm print that Ning Yu had slashed out. Under the powerful pressure of the 2 palm prints, the sword light that Ning Yu had slashed out shattered. Rustle! 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 The moment Ning Yu slashed out a sword light, the remaining 3 6th-grade sovereigns of the 100 Flowers Palace immediately charged out. The 3 6th-grade sovereigns had a clear target. They were the Dark Emperor, the Talisman Supremacy, and Yun Mu. Ning Yu's face drastically changed as he hurriedly waved the red demon sword and slashed out several sword lights. Yun Mu was only a grade 3 Human Sovereign, so he definitely wouldn't be able to withstand a powerful attack from a grade 6 Human Sovereign. The Dark Emperor was a grade 2 Human Sovereign. Although he was stronger than Yun Mu, he probably wouldn't be able to withstand a few moves from a grade 6 Human Sovereign. The one that Ning Yu was most at ease with was the Talisman Supremacy. The Talisman Supremacy was even stronger than the Dark Emperor and Yun Mu combined. Chapter 1072. Oppressive Aura Rumble. As expected, the Talisman Venerable had displayed her powerful strength the moment she made her move. The 6th-grade Human Sovereign who was facing her was completely suppressed by her, without any signs of turning the tables. Boom! The Talisman Venerable was still fine, but the Dark Emperor and Yun Mu were in trouble. A 6th-grade Sovereign grabbed onto this opportunity and punched Yun Mu's chest. Yun Mu's body was sent flying and only came to a stop when he crashed into the stage of the martial practice field. Uft! Dark red blood spurted out of Yun Mu's mouth, and his face became deathly pale. Roar! The Dark Emperor roared towards the sky, and a huge shock wave charged towards the 6th-grade sovereign of the 100 Flower Palace at a terrifying speed. However, the Dark Emperor's cultivation was too low. She was only a 2nd grade sovereign. So even if she went all out, she wasn't a match for a 6th grade sovereign and could only retreat. Retreat! Ning Yu's gaze turned cold as he slashed out with his sword, forcing the 2 middle 7th grade sovereigns to retreat. Thereafter, he charged towards the Dark Emperor and Yunmu, protecting them behind him. After consuming the berserk liquid, Ning Yu's cultivation had risen to the 4th grade sovereign realm in a short period of time. There was a qualitative leap in his strength. In a one-on-one fight, Ning Yu was absolutely confident that he could win against a middle 7th grade sovereign realm sovereign. You guys retreat. Leave these 2 6th grade sovereign realm sovereigns to me, Ning Yu said in a solemn voice. Buzz! Buzz! Just when Ning Yu finished his words, the surrounding space split apart and several silhouettes flew out. The sudden appearance of those silhouettes made Ning Yu's heart sink to the bottom. F***CK. When he saw the cultivation of those cultivators, the worry in Ning Yu's heart was slightly alleviated. 1st grade sovereign, 2nd grade sovereign, and 3rd grade sovereign realm. As for the cultivators that appeared later on, the weakest was a 1st grade sovereign, while the strongest was only a 3rd grade sovereign. With the Dark Emperor and Yunmu's strength, they shouldn't be defeated so quickly when fighting with these martial artists. Dark Emperor, be careful. After saying this, Ning Yu charged out with the red demon's sword in his hand. Ning Yu's speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, he had already arrived before a 6th grade human sovereign and slashed his sword towards the neck of that 6th grade human sovereign. Generally speaking, stabbing the heart was the simplest and most effective method. However, Ning Yu knew that he couldn't do that. This was because stabbing the heart required concentration and a sudden attack. He had to split his perception to pay attention to the movements of the other 2 7th grade human supremes and 6th grade human supremes, so he couldn't concentrate. Ding! How could a 6th grade sovereign of the 100 Flowers Palace be killed by Ning Yu? She pulled out her flying sword and made intimate contact with the red demon's sword. A crisp sound rang out. Ning Yu and the 6th grade sovereign both took a few steps back at the same time. Middle 6th grade human supreme realm. Through this strike, Ning Yu could determine that the 6th grade human supreme realm was a middle 6th grade human supreme realm. Turning his head to look at the other 6th grade human supreme realm, Ning Yu's expression turned grave. A middle 6th grade human supreme realm and a late 6th grade human supreme realm, and 2 middle 7th grade human supreme realm. Even though Ning Yu had swallowed the berserk elixir and advanced his cultivation to 4th grade human supreme realm, he still found it difficult to deal with this situation. I have to kill the 2 6th grade human supreme realm first. Ning Yu knew his limits. The only thing he could do now was to kill the 6th grade human supreme realm first, then tangle with the middle 7th grade human supreme realm. After all, every 7th grade human supreme realm was extremely powerful and couldn't be judged by common sense. Take another strike from me. Suddenly, Ning Yu's eyes lit up. He injected the Yuan Qi in his sea of consciousness into the red demon's sword and dashed out instantly. The direction Ning Yu dashed towards was where the middle 6th grade human supreme realm was. As for the late 6th grade human supreme realm and the 2 middle 7th grade human supreme realm, Ning Yu chose to ignore them for the time being. Swoosh! 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 As it turned out, Ning Yu wanted to ignore them, but they didn't want to ignore Ning Yu. Of the 3 experts from the 100 Flowers Palace, 2 were middle 7th grade human supreme realm, and 1 was late 6th grade human supreme realm. The 3 of them instantly tore through the void and appeared in front of Ning Yu. Swoosh! 3 consecutive punches, containing violent Yuan Qi, smashed towards Ning Yu's head. Each of these 3 punches was extraordinarily powerful. If Ning Yu was unlucky enough to be hit in the head, his head would probably explode, and he would die on the spot. Damn it! Ning Yu couldn't help cursing in his heart at this critical moment. However, he had no way to retreat now and could only brace himself to face them head-on. Universe Palm! Forming seals with his left hand, Ningyu sent out 3 palm seals without turning his head. As for Ningyu, he held onto the red demon sword with his right hand and slashed it towards the neck of the middle 6th grade human supreme realm. Crack! 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 A series of cracking sounds rang out. The first 3 cracking sounds came from when the universe palm was shattered. The last cracking sound came from Ning Yu's red demon sword slashing the neck of the middle 6th grade human supreme realm. What? The remaining 3 experts from the 100 Flowers Palace had a drastic change in their expressions when Ning Yu killed the middle 6th grade human supreme realm with a single strike. The 3 experts from the Flower Palace exchanged glances, and all of them saw deep rage in each other's eyes. After the anger subsided, 3 experts of the Flower Palace charged out in unison, and their target was Ningyu. One by one, kill as many as you can. Ningyu didn't linger and immediately retreated after his attack succeeded. Truth be told, it was already taxing for Ningyu to fight 2 7th grade human sovereigns alone, not to mention the addition of a late 6th grade human sovereign. Therefore, Ningyu could only retreat and fight at the same time, trying to find an opening to launch a sneak attack. Rumble. However, after the middle 6th grade human sovereign was killed, the experts of the 100 Flowers Palace became more vigilant. Ningyu fought with them for half an hour, but he couldn't find any opening. There's still half an hour left. If I can't kill all 3 of them, I'm afraid that I'll be doomed today. Ningyu knew the severity of the situation. He gritted his teeth and brought out the law of space. At a time like this, only the law of space could save his life. Ningyu was not a fool. He just hid the law of space in his cuff and was prepared to suddenly release it during the fierce battle, striving for an unexpected effect. As for the sapling, Ningyu had no intention of using it. The sapling could be useful at times and useless at other times. At this moment of life and death, it actually pretended to be dead and lied in the storage ring. It didn't even produce Shenyang pills anymore. Whoosh! Ning Yu had just moved the law of space into his sleeve when the late 6th grade human sovereign appeared before him. Ning Yu, I won't kill you. I'll only make you beg for death. The middle 6th grade human sovereign received the order to control Ningyu, not to kill Ningyu. Chapter 1073. Be taken captive. You want me to beg for death? At this point, Ningyu calmed down instead. He raised his eyebrows and said darkly, If it was Venerable One Yu who said this, I might believe it, but you... At this point, Ningyu paused for a moment before continuing, I don't really believe it. You don't believe me? The late-stage rank, 6th Supreme Martial Artist, was a little stunned. Since when could a Grade 1 Supreme Martial Artist be so confident? Although you've swallowed the berserk liquid and forcefully raised your cultivation to 4th grade human sovereign, I'm still a late 6th grade human sovereign. Where did you get your confidence from? Yes, I don't believe it. Ningyu's tone was emotionless as he said, Because of you, I might not be able to see the sun tomorrow. As soon as he said that, Ningyu waved his sleeve and a cold light shot out. Not good. Sensing the terrifying aura contained within the cold light, the 6th grade late phase human sovereign's face changed drastically as he hurriedly retreated. However, it was too late for her to retreat now. The cold light entered her body from the surface of her skin. Ningyu, what have you done to me? What was that thing just now? The late-stage 6th grade Supreme Martial Artist said fiercely, Since you asked me so sincerely, there's no harm in telling you. Ningyu said, Could it be that the cold light is a soul attack magical technique? It contains my soul force, Yuan Qi, and Puqi. Before Ning, you could finish his sentence, the sixth grade, late-stage human supreme being's eyes rolled back, and he died on the spot. Sigh, what a pity. Ning, you gently sighed as he turned to look at the two seventh-grade middle-phase human sovereigns. If you guys want to end up like them, you can come over. The supreme martial artists at the middle and late stage of the sixth grade were killed one after another, causing the faces of the two supreme martial artists at the middle stage of the seventh grade to turn a little cold. Ningyu was a freak. In such a short period of time, he was able to easily kill two sixth grade human sovereigns. From the looks of it, Ningyu was not injured. We still have half an hour. Ningyu shifted his gaze towards the sky when he saw that the two seventh-grade middle human supreme martial artists had been intimidated. In midair, the sword of evil and honor you were still fighting. Judging from the situation of the battle, Venerable Yu had already switched from attacking to defending. As long as he could hold on for a little longer, he believed that the sword of evil would definitely kill the Honorable Yu. With the death of the Venerable, wouldn't these two supreme martial artists in the middle of the seventh grade be like turtles in a jar? Pucci! Right at this moment, the talisman martial supremacy seized the opportunity and punched the head of the sixth grade human supremacy that she was fighting with. Instantly, his head exploded, and his brain matter splattered everywhere. I didn't expect the talisman martial supremacy to be so cruel. The corners of Ning Yu's mouth twitched. Although talisman martial supremacy did not look like anything on the surface, he was actually very domineering on the inside. I still have to be careful of talisman martial supremacy. Ning Yu secretly became cautious. Although he had the heart-reaping pill to control talisman martial supremacy, Ning Yu was still not at ease. Swoosh! After killing the sixth grade human supreme martial supremacy, talisman martial supremacy flew to Ning Yu's side in the blink of an eye. Do you need my help? Talisman martial supremacy's aura locked onto the two seventh grade middle human sovereigns as he asked in a deep voice, Nonsense. Each of us will take one. Finish the battle within half an hour. Ning Yu shouted in a low voice, and then his figure shot out explosively. There was still half an hour left for the berserk liquid. Ning Yu had to make good use of the last half an hour to kill as many as he could. Slash! Waving both hands, Ning Yu slashed the red demon's sword repeatedly. Countless sword rays covered the sky and earth as they shot towards one of the seventh grade middle human sovereigns. With talisman martial supremacy sharing the burden for him, the burden on Ning Yu's shoulders could be greatly reduced. With the cultivation of a fourth grade middle human sovereign and the strength of a seventh grade middle human sovereign, Ning Yu was confident that he could kill a seventh grade middle human sovereign within half an hour. Rumble. Ning family martial arts field. Countless spells flew in all directions, and all sorts of powerful moves were displayed one after another. The space cracked and mended and cracked again. In short, the Ning family's martial arts field had already become a forbidden ground. Martial artists whose cultivation had not reached the supremacy stage would only face death if they entered the martial arts field now. Only martial artists whose cultivation had reached the supremacy stage could remain safe and sound inside. I'm so pissed off. Grandpa Emperor didn't go look for you, but you came to me on your own accord. I'll devour you to my heart's content today. The Dark Emperor yelled as he pounced towards a second-grade middle human sovereign. Two sharp teeth pierced through the second-grade middle human sovereign's neck. Almost instantly, the second-grade middle human sovereign was completely devoured by the Dark Emperor. Ha ha ha. After today, I'll make a trip to the 100-Flower Palace and raze it to the ground. When the Dark Emperor boasted, his words were clear and logical. One could not tell that he was bragging at all. Raze the 100-Flower Palace? Let's see if a dog like you has the ability to do so. Seeing their companion being killed, the remaining martial artists of the 100-Flower Palace unleashed their trump cards. Countless terrifying attacks were aimed at the Dark Emperor. With so many people attacking the Dark Emperor, Yunmu was safe instead. Huff! Yunmu gasped for air as she seized the time to recuperate. Buzz! Not long after Yunmu recuperated, the space beside her suddenly cracked and a massive palm grabbed her in. Whew! Just before he was pulled into the spatial crack, Yunmu let out a loud cry. What? Yunmu's yell had caused the Talisman Venerable's face to drastically change. Boom! The Talisman Venerable was fighting with a 7th grade middle phase sovereign. She was stunned for a second, which gave the 7th grade middle phase sovereign an opportunity to throw a punch at her chest. Watch out! At the critical moment, Ningyu had forcefully pushed away the middle phase 7th grade sovereign that he was fighting with and sent a kick towards the Talisman Venerable, sending him flying far away. Crack! Fortunately, he had Ningyu's help. Otherwise, the Talisman Venerable would have probably gone to meet the King of Hell. You guys forced me to do this. The Talisman Martial Supremacy's face was dark and gloomy. Then he took out a red medicinal pill and swallowed it in front of everyone. Whoosh! As the elixir entered his stomach, a terrifying aura soared into the sky. The Talisman Venerable's cultivation was also rapidly rising. 5th grade human supreme martial artist, 6th grade human supreme martial artist, peak 6th grade human supreme martial artist. In just a few seconds, the Talisman Venerable's aura had reached the pinnacle 6th grade sovereign realm. Furthermore, it was still rising. Boom! A muffled sound came from the Talisman Venerable's body. Initial phase, 7th grade sovereign realm. At this moment, the Talisman Venerable's cultivation had reached the terrifying initial phase, 7th grade sovereign realm. Rustle! The Talisman Venerable's cultivation did not stop at the initial phase, 7th grade sovereign realm, and was still rising. Middle phase, 7th grade sovereign realm. Late phase, 7th grade sovereign realm. Only when his cultivation reached the late phase, 7th grade sovereign realm did the Talisman Venerable retract his aura and let out a long breath. I initially did not want to kill all of you, but you guys forced my hand. Chapter 1074. Interrogation. There's a rule in the 100-Flower Palace that no one can become an 80-flower elder if their cultivation isn't up to standard. We'll see if you're qualified. With a cold snort, the 2 middle phase, 7th grade sovereigns charged out towards the Talisman Venerable. Haha, I can easily kill you 2 shrimps with a wave of my hand. Looking at the 2 middle phase, 7th grade sovereigns, the Talisman Venerable lightly smiled and flicked her finger. Instantly, 2 cold beams flew out. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. The cold beams were extremely swift, emitting sizzling sounds from the friction with the air. Insignificant. Puff. Before the 7th grade intermediate human sovereign could finish his words, his mouth had widened and he vomited a mouthful of blood. Boom! His body heavily fell onto the ground. That middle phase, 7th grade, sovereign died on the spot. Not good. Seeing this, the other 7th grade sovereign hastily retreated. He had even exerted all his strength so that he could escape as soon as possible. However, it was too late for her to escape now. Uft! The same mouthful of blood, the same miserable state, and the same death. Gulp! Ningyu swallowed a mouthful of saliva. The Talisman Venerable had killed 2 middle phase, 7th grade sovereigns in an instant, which made him feel unrealistic. Wasn't that a little too monstrous? Even if her cultivation was at the late phase, 7th grade sovereign, she shouldn't be able to kill 2 middle phase, 7th grade sovereigns so quickly. Boom! Just when the Talisman Venerable killed the 2 middle phase, 7th grade sovereigns, the Sword of Evil had found an opportunity to stab into Venerable Yu's back. Venerable Yu was the same as the Sword of Evil. Both of them were late-phase 7th grade sovereigns. Now that Venerable Yu was careless and was stabbed in the back by the Sword of Evil, his strength had instantly dropped by several folds. Venerable Yu, I'll give you a chance. Kneel down and kowtow to me, and I might be merciful enough to spare your life. Talisman Supremacy did not seem to want to kill Supremacy Yu. She said coldly, I'm only giving you this chance on account that we're fellow disciples. You have to cherish it. Ha ha ha. Venerable Yu threw his head back and laughed maniacally. Don't think that I don't know. Even though you've swallowed a pill to raise your cultivation to the late 7th stage, you still have to rest for a few minutes before you make a move. The reason why you haven't attacked me yet is because you are resting. You're smart, but you're useless. At this moment, Ning Yu spoke. Ning Yu went straight to the point as he said, You can't even contend against the Sword of Evil, let alone the Talisman Martial Venerable. Even if the Talisman Martial Venerable can't make another move in the next 3 to 4 minutes, the Sword of Evil can delay you for a few minutes. Isn't that as easy as drinking water? Ning Yu's words made Venerable Yu's face turn ugly. Actually, the condition of her body was even worse than Ning Yu had guessed. There was no need for the Talisman Martial Venerable to make a move. Just the Sword of Evil alone was enough to kill her. I have to think of a way. Venerable Yu's eyeballs moved as he said without batting an eyelid, Talisman Martial Venerable, I know who kidnapped Yunmu. If you're sure to stop now, I can tell you where Yunmu is. Speak. The Talisman Martial Venerable said coldly. Haha, unless you swear a heavenly oath, I won't tell you even if I have to. The corners of Venerable Yu's mouth curled up as he laughed sinisterly. Sword of Evil, don't hold back. Kill Venerable Yu. Seeing the Talisman Martial Venerable hesitate, Ning Yu shouted in a low voice. Swoosh! Hearing Ning Yu's order, the Sword of Evil charged out again with the low-grade Emperor flying sword in his hand and slashed at Venerable Yu. Talisman Martial Venerable, if I'm killed, you'll never know who kidnapped Yunmu for the rest of your life. Venerable Yu knew that if the Talisman Martial Venerable did not intervene, she would not be able to escape death today. Only if the Talisman Martial Venerable intervened would she have a chance of survival. Ning Yu, Yunmu's identity is very special. I have to find her, the Talisman Martial Venerable said in a low voice. Can you let me handle Venerable Yu? I'll return her to you after I force her to tell me where she is, the Talisman Martial Venerable said in a low voice. You should know very well that killing Venerable Yu is much easier than capturing her alive. Ning Yu reminded. I understand. The elixir I consumed can allow me to attack twice. The interval between each attack is 3 minutes. The Talisman Martial Venerable nodded and said, 3 minutes later, I'll capture Venerable Yu alive with the Sword of Evil. Drip. Time was ticking away. Swoosh. In an instant, 3 minutes had passed. The Talisman Martial Venerable stomped on the ground, and his body instantly shot out. The Sword of Evil could suppress Venerable Yu and even kill her, but he needed time. Now that the Talisman Martial Venerable had joined forces, Venerable Yu was immediately forced to retreat. Slap, slap. After another 3 minutes, the Sword of Evil and the Talisman Martial Venerable each grabbed Venerable Yu's shoulder and pressed down fiercely with an enormous force. Crack! Venerable Yu's shoulder was directly shattered by the enormous force. Speak! Where is Yunmu? The Talisman Martial Venerable said coldly. I'll speak my ass. I don't even know where Yunmu is. A cold light flashed in Venerable Yu's eyes. Actually, Venerable Yu didn't know who captured Yunmu. She was fighting the Sword of Evil earlier, so how could she have the spare energy to pay attention to Yunmu? For Venerable Yu to be able to become an elder of the 100 Flower Palace and gather so many elders of the 100 Flower Palace together, It was enough to show that she was very scheming. I just need to drag on for a few more minutes, and the talisman, Martial Venerable's strength, will fall to rock bottom. At that time, I can use the secret technique to leave while the Sword of Evil is off guard. Venerable, you made up her mind. One word, drag on. Drag on for as long as she could. She wasn't worried that the talisman, Martial Venerable, would kill her. Are you going to speak or not? Just as Venerable you thought, the talisman, Martial Venerable, was very anxious. In a few more minutes, her strength would fall to rock bottom. If she couldn't find out where Yunmu was within these few minutes, she probably wouldn't have a chance. Venerable, you kept her mouth shut and didn't say a word. Talisman, Martial Venerable, hand her over to the talisman. Martial Venerable's direct question made Ningyu very anxious. Kill her first, then use the secret technique to extract Venerable Yu's memories. This way, not only could he save a lot of trouble, but he could also accurately find out who captured Yunmu. You guys want to know where Yunmu is? Before Ningyu's voice faded, his eyes widened as he looked at the entrance of the martial arts practice field. Crack! 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 At the entrance of the martial arts practice field, 3 figures suddenly tore through the void and appeared. It's you guys! Seeing the 3 familiar figures, Ningyu's expression became very ugly. These 3 figures were none other than the blood ghost ancestor. Shintahao and the East were venerable. Ningyu, how have you been? The blood ghost ancestor smiled at Ningyu, then clapped his hands. Clap, clap. The moment the blood ghost ancestor's palms separated, the void beside him tore apart again. Chapter 10:75. The army has returned. Yunmu. Looking at the weak figure that walked out of the void, Ningyu and even the talisman Martial Supremacy had their mouths agape in shock. So Yunmu was kidnapped by the blood ghost ancestor and had nothing to do with Venerable Yu or the 100 Flowers Palace. Thinking of this, Ningyu and the talisman Supremacy hurriedly looked at Venerable Yu. You guys have a good talk. I won't play with you anymore. Bye. When Ningyu and the rest looked at Venerable Yu, the corner of Venerable Yu's mouth rose, and his body gradually became illusory. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared. Damn it! The talisman Supremacy was furious that Venerable Yu disappeared just like that. If she had known earlier, she would have believed Ningyu's words and killed Venerable Yu on the spot. Now, she was remembered by a late-stage, 7th grade human supreme. Her life from now on would definitely be colorful. Head west, 30 feet. Sword of Evil, go. Ningyu and the talisman Supremacy had different reactions. He was not dejected at first, but secretly communicated with the Law of Space to find Venerable Yu's location. Hard work paid off. Soon, Ningyu used the Law of Space to detect Venerable Yu's location. Buzz. After receiving the direction provided by Ningyu, the Sword of Evil held the flying sword and disappeared as well. East. After the Sword of Evil merged into the void, Ningyu kept telling him where Venerable Yu was. The entrance of the training field. She's trying to escape. Suddenly, Ningyu's heart tightened as he said hurriedly, Swoosh! The Sword of Evil knew the severity of the problem. He did not hesitate to burn his blood essence to increase his speed and instantly arrived at the entrance of the training field. Come out. With a slash of his sword, the space was almost cut into 2. Ah! A scream like that of a pig being slaughtered came from the void. Bang! Following that, a battered and exhausted figure fell out of the void and crashed heavily onto the ground, landing face first on the ground. Kill her. If the weeds are not removed by the roots, they will grow again when the spring breeze blows. Ningyu immediately ordered the Sword of Evil to kill Honor Yu. Not good. Before the flying sword in the Sword of Evil's hand could reach the Venerable One, his expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly retreated. Boom! Just as Venerable Sword Evil took a few steps back, the space beside Venerable You exploded with a loud bang, wrapping him in the middle. The spatial rupture didn't last long and quickly dissipated. After dispersing, Venerable One You also disappeared along with it. Over there! The Dark Emperor pointed at the warrior who suddenly appeared beside Yunmu and shouted. Ningyu and the rest turned around and saw Venerable You beside Yunmu. Venerable Yu's eyes were dim, and he looked like he would collapse at any moment. Come out. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu said in a deep voice. Ningyu wasn't a fool. A warrior that could make the sword of evil feel fear was definitely not the Blood Ghost ancestor and the rest. The Bloodbone ancestor and Shen Tu were definitely cannon fodder. It should be Dan Lin. Ning-Yu quickly thought of a countermeasure. The Blood Ghost ancestor was an expert of the Blood God Palace, and the Blood God Palace wouldn't send any experts over for the time being. Shen Tu Hao was the Nine Cauldron Divine Pavilion's great elder. In the Nine Cauldron Divine Pavilion, his strength was considered top-notch. As for the East War Venerable, he was a pill puppet and had found a new pill cave near Profound Sky City. One could imagine that the mysterious expert in the void must have come from that pill cave. As expected of a young hero, no wonder he could kill the eldest young master. A faint voice came from the void, and a figure appeared in front of the East War Venerable. It really is Dan Lin. Sensing the aura emitted from the warrior, Ning Yu's expression turned grave. Dan Lin. His cultivation was at the peak of the 7th grade human supreme realm. The Sword of Evil had only recovered to the late 7th grade human supreme realm, and he had fought with Venerable You for so long. If he were to face this Dan Lin now, he was doomed. Most importantly, the talisman Martial Venerable's strength had dropped to the freezing point, and he could only last for 20 minutes before his cultivation dropped to the 1st grade human supreme realm. No matter how one looked at it, it seemed that they couldn't escape death today. I originally wanted to spare your life, but you did something you shouldn't have done. I can only destroy your sea of consciousness, break the tendons in your limbs, and bring you back to report. Dan Lin, who was in front of the East War Venerable, said faintly, Can I ask a question? Ning Yu rolled his eyes. Speak. I'll give you a chance. The peak 7th grade human supreme realm Dan Lin shrugged and said, Remember my name. I'm called Intermediate War Venerable. What a weird name. Putting aside the East War Venerable, now there's an Intermediate War Venerable. Ning Yu slandered in his heart, then said without batting an eyelid, Most Dan Lin live in the Pill Cavern, and only when his cultivation has reached my. Ning Yu immediately retreated halfway through his sentence, because Ning Yu realized that this Intermediate War Venerable didn't play by the rules. He didn't wait for himself to finish speaking. His figure flashed, and he instantly charged out. Universe Palm. Facing the peak 7th grade human supreme realm, Ningyu wrapped all the energy and soul force in his body around his wrist, and he slapped out his most powerful palm. Whoosh! A huge blood-red Qian word appeared in the air, and it collided with the Intermediate War Venerable. An afterimage. When the Qian word collided with the Intermediate War Venerable, Ningyu realized that something was wrong, because the Qian word passed through the Intermediate War Venerable without any obstruction. To be able to unleash such a powerful palm, it's enough to show that you're very strong and talented, but it's a pity that you'll still be killed by me. The Intermediate War Venerable's words rang in Ningyu's ears. Then the Intermediate War Venerable's right hand fiercely smashed towards Ningyu's heart. The Intermediate War Venerable used all his strength in this punch. If Ningyu was unlucky enough to be hit, he would probably be in trouble. Phantom armor. At this critical moment, Ningyu closed his eyes and hurriedly communicated with the phantom armor. The phantom armor was a low-grade Emperor artifact, and its defense was extremely powerful. Bang! The Intermediate War Venerable's fist collided with Ning Yu's body, and Ning Yu was sent flying several meters away, falling directly in front of the Ning Yu family's main door. Swish! 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 The Intermediate War Venerable's figure became illusory. Clearly, he had arrived in front of the Ning family's main door. Let's go as well. Ancestor Blood Ghost and the others glanced at each other, and then they led Venerable Yu and Yunmu to vanish in an instant. Let's go. Venerable Talisman Marshal and the Dark Emperor didn't stay on the spot, and they instantly left. As for the remaining Supremacy Realm cultivators from the Flower Palace, they hesitated on the spot for a while, and then they tore through space and flew towards the Flower Palace. Most of them were holy maidens of the Flower Palace. Since so many elders of the Flower Palace had been killed this time, they decided to bring news of this back to the Flower Palace and allow the members of the Flower Palace to punish the exalted Talisman Marshal and Yunmu. Impossible. At the same time, in front of the Ning family's main door, Chapter 1076. Cough! Cough! Ning Yu coughed as he stood up with great difficulty. Feeling the tearing pain coming from his chest, Ning Yu couldn't help taking a deep breath. That was a close call. Fortunately, he had the Mirage armor. Otherwise, that punch from the Intermediate War Sovereign would have taken his life. Good. I don't want to kill you now. I want to capture you and study you. The Middle War Sovereign crossed his arms in front of his chest and stared at Ning Yu with interest. Your talent and strength far surpass the pill puppets of your generation. Even the best of the pill puppets would find it difficult to contend against you. All right. As he spoke, the Intermediate War Sovereign briefly paused before he continued. Our pellet clan has a secret art that can extract your talent for other pellet puppets to devour. As long as we find a few pellet puppets with higher talent to devour you, their talent will greatly increase. Devour talent? Ning Yu's face slightly changed. He had heard of the devouring of Yuan Qi, soul power, and even energy. However, he had never heard of the devour talent. Although he was a heavenly sovereign in his previous life, Ning Yu had never heard of the devour talent before. Haha, it's shocking, isn't it? The Intermediate War Sovereign seemed to know what Ning Yu was thinking, so he lightly smiled. The Devour talent is unique to the Pellet Puppet Clan. I'm sorry, but you won't be able to grasp it in your lifetime. East War Sovereign. The Intermediate War Sovereign solemnly said. Here, the East War Sovereign replied. The East War Sovereign had long wanted to make a move against Ning Yu, but it wasn't convenient for him to do so with the Intermediate War Sovereign present. Now that the Intermediate War Sovereign had given the order, he was naturally excited. Capture Ning Yu alive. Russell. As soon as the Middle War Venerate said those words, the East War Venerate immediately tore through the void and charged at Ning Yu. Although the East War Venerable's cultivation wasn't as high as the Middle War Venerable's, he had still reached the 7th grade initial Human Sovereign Realm, dealing with a 1st grade Human Supreme. No, it should be dealing with Ning Yu, who is now a 4th grade Human Supreme, was still a piece of cake. After Ning Yu consumed the Berserk fluid, his cultivation advanced from 1st grade Human Sovereign to 4th grade Human Sovereign. Furthermore, he could maintain it for an hour. An hour had yet to pass, and Ning Yu's strength was still at the 4th grade Human Supreme Realm. Sword of Evil, how confident are you that you can resist an Intermediate War Elder? Ning Yu didn't seem to know that the East War Sovereign had already attacked him. He continued to speak to the Sword of Evil through his soul. This won't do. I've expended a lot of energy. In addition, the Intermediate War Venerable's cultivation has reached the terrifying 7th grade Pinnacle Human Supreme Realm. Unless you give me another Xingyang pill, I won't be a match for an intermediate or venerable. Reverend Sword Evil said with a solemn expression. Damn it! Hearing the Sword of Evil's reply, Ningyu cursed inwardly. He clenched his teeth and said, If I let you control the law of space, how confident are you that you can deal with the intermediate or venerable? In order to survive, Ningyu had no choice but to expose the law of space. Law of space? The swordsman was stunned at first. Then his eyes were filled with disbelief. Even some earth and heavenly sovereigns might not be able to control the law of space. How did a first-grade human sovereign like Ningyu obtain it? Could it be that Ningyu was lying to him? The Sword of Evil couldn't believe what he had just heard. Answer me. The Sword of Evil's daze made Ningyu furious. How could you be dazed at such a critical moment? That's intolerable. 80%. The Sword of Evil yelled after being reprimanded by Ningyu. All right, I'll leave the intermediate or venerable to you. I'll do my best to delay the others. With a will, Ningyu controlled the law of space and flew towards the Sword of Evil. Universe Palm. At the same time, Ningyu pushed his right hand out and threw a backhand slap at the void. Boom! A muffled sound rang out as Ningyu's palm clashed with the East or Venerable's fist. Rustle! Rustle! As the two fists clashed, both Ningyu and the East or Venerable took a few steps back before they stabilized themselves. But judging from the distance, Ningyu was clearly at a disadvantage. What? Ning, you can actually contend with the East or Venerable. Contend? Are you blind? The East or Venerable only took 3 steps back, while Ningyu took 10-odd steps back. How can he contend with the East or Venerable? What's the cultivation of Ningyu, and what's the cultivation of the East or Venerable? It's not easy for Ningyu to achieve this. If it was you, you would have been turned into minced meat by the East or Venerable. Nonsense, what's my cultivation? What's Ningyu's cultivation? Truth be told, many people were shocked that Ningyu could withstand a move from the East or Venerable. Aside from the surrounding spectators, even the East or Venerable himself felt disbelief. Gulp. Swallowing a mouthful of saliva, the East or Venerable looked at Ningyu like a fool with a dumbfounded expression. He was an initial phase 7th grade sovereign. How did a monster like Ningyu accomplish this? Trash. Seeing that the East or Venerable only had a slight advantage in a move, the Middle or Venerable's face turned ugly. The East or Venerable was the same as him, a pellet puppet. Furthermore, the East or Venerable was sent out by him. If he knew this would happen, he would have personally made a move to capture Ningyu. Now that he was seen by the blood ghost ancestor and Shintahao, where would he put his face? Get lost, watch me. With a roar, the Middle or Venerable kicked the East or Venerable away and turned into an afterimage as he charged towards Ningyu. Whoosh! The speed of the Middle or Venerable was extremely fast. In the eyes of the blood ghost ancestor and Shintahao, the Middle or Venerable was only an afterimage. Ning, you won't be able to escape this time. The corner of the blood ghost ancestor's lips rose as he eerily said, Won't be able to escape? Ha! No one can save Ningyu today. Ning, you will definitely die. The corner of Shintuhao's lips rose as he eerily smiled. Sword of Evil, if you don't come out now, when will you? Seeing that the Middle or Venerable was about to arrive in front of him, Ningyu's eyes burst forth with a terrifying light as he shouted loudly, Chi-Chi! As soon as Ningyu's shout fell, the space in front of him suddenly split open, and then a figure appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Sword of Evil. Looking at the man in front of him, the Middle or Venerable was slightly startled. Then he raised his eyebrows and said, Since you're courting death, I'll fulfill your wish. It's still too early to say who will fulfill who. The Sword of Evil's expression was devoid of joy or sorrow. Facing the Middle or Venerable, not only did he not respond, he even closed his eyes. Has the Sword of Evil lost his mind? It's hard to say. He should have lost his mind, right? Otherwise, he wouldn't have closed his eyes. That's right. Even a fool would know to fight. If he can't win, he'll run. If he can win, he'll fight. At a time like this, he can actually do something as stupid as closing his eyes. Let's wait and see for now. Maybe the sword of evil can give us. Chapter 1077. Swish, swish. The medium warlord had just approached the sword of evil, but before he could launch an attack, his expression changed drastically and he hurriedly retreated. At this moment, the medium warlord's expression was like he had seen a ghost, causing an uproar among the surrounding warriors. Crash! Everyone looked at the medium warlord in shock. They couldn't believe that he, who had a higher cultivation than the sword of evil, would be so scared. You! The medium warlord stretched out his right hand and pointed at the sword of evil. You actually have that thing on you. How is that possible? As the sword of evil didn't use the spatial laws and only separated a bit of his aura for the medium warlord to detect. No one knew except for the medium warlord. What's going on with the medium warlord? The blood ghost ancestor was very confused. In his opinion, the strength of the medium warlord far exceeded the sword of evil. He didn't need to use his full strength to kill the sword of evil. But the current situation was that the medium warlord was afraid of the sword of evil like a mouse seeing a cat. Do I need to tell you why I have that thing? The sword of evil's expression didn't change as he walked towards the medium warlord step by step. The evil sword supremacy walked very slowly. With every step, he had to pause slightly. This was to crush the psychological defenses of the medium war venerables. Although he had the spatial laws, the sword of evil knew very well that if he wanted to defeat or even kill the medium warlord, he would have to pay the price of exhausting all his vitality. In other words, even if the sword of evil killed the medium warlord, he wouldn't have much combat power left in his body. Don't be too proud. The medium warlord was indeed a peak grade 7 supreme. He shouted coldly, Blood Ghost Ancestor, Shintahao Eastern War Venerable, let's join forces and kill the sword of evil. What's going on? The more afraid the medium warlord appeared, the more terrified the Blood Ghost Ancestor and Shintahao became. In fact, they didn't think much of it at the beginning. At most, they would just tear the void and escape. However, when they saw the reaction of the medium warlord, they began to beat a retreat in their hearts. Even such a powerful intermediate war elder was afraid of the sword of evil. From this, it could be seen that the sword of evil definitely had something terrifying on him. Thinking of this, the Blood Ghost Ancestor said coldly, Medium war venerable, we have a cooperative relationship to begin with. If you don't tell us the truth, we'll leave now. Leave? The Middle War Venerable's expression was very ugly. That's right, let's leave now. The Blood Ghost Ancestor and Shin too realized that something was wrong. They looked at each other and then tore through the void in unison, wanting to leave the area. Puff! Puff! Dreams were plentiful, but reality was harsh. Just as the Blood Ghost Ancestor and Shend Tu tore open the void, before they could even enter, the Intermediate War Elder seized the opportunity and punched them twice in the chest. The Blood Ghost Ancestor and Shend Tu were only at the 7th grade initial human sovereign realm. Against a Middle War Elder, they could only bear a grudge. After being hit by the Middle War Sovereign's fist, the two of them were sent flying several feet away. Bang! Bang! The place where the Blood Ghost Ancestor and Shen Tu fell was rather awkward. Beneath the feet of the Sword of Evil, the punch from the Middle War Elder had caused the strength of the Blood Ghost Ancestor and Shen Tu to instantly drop by half. Now that they were at the feet of the Sword of Evil, how could they still survive? There's a path to heaven, but you refuse to take it. There's no door to hell, but you barge in. The prey had already delivered itself to him. If the Sword of Evil didn't hunt them down, it would be a little unreasonable. Die. The Sword of Evil held the low-grade royal rank flying sword in his hand and stabbed out twice in succession. Block! Seeing that the royal rank flying sword was about to pierce their hearts, the Blood Ghost Ancestor and Shen Tu how hurriedly activated the Yuan Qi in their bodies, forming an Yuan Qi barrier around their hearts. Qi Qi. The flying sword stabbed into the Blood Ghost Ancestor's Yuan Qi barrier, but was unable to advance an inch. Ha ha ha, Sword of Evil, the mountains will not change, and the rivers will continue to flow. We will meet again. The Blood Ghost Ancestor raised his head and laughed, then tore through the void, wanting to leave. Puff! Since the Sword of Evil had already decided to kill the Blood Ghost Ancestor and Shin Tu Hao, he would definitely not let them leave. Holding the low-grade royal rank flying sword in his hand, the Sword of Evil suddenly waved his wrist, and the sword pierced towards the space between the Blood Ghost Ancestor's eyebrows. Ah! The moment the flying sword pierced into the space between his eyebrows, the Blood Ghost Ancestor let out a hysterical roar. At this moment, the early grade 7 human sovereign, the person in charge of the Blood God Palace in the Lanqing country, the Blood Ghost Ancestor, died in battle. Boom! After the death of the Blood Ghost Ancestor, Shin Tu Hao's expression changed greatly. Shin Tu Hao knew what he was capable of. His strength was on par with the Blood Ghost Ancestor. Now that the Blood Ghost Ancestor had been easily killed by the Sword of Evil, it could be imagined that he would not be able to hold on for long. Sword of Evil, why don't we make a deal? Shin Tu Hao's eyes turned, and he was rapidly thinking of a countermeasure. The current situation was very clear. In this area, the Sword of Evil's strength was the strongest. The rest of the middle were venerable, east were venerable, Talisman Marshal venerable, and Ningyu all had to stand aside. Under this premise, it was not shameful for him to compromise with the Sword of Evil. What deal? The Sword of Evil secretly contacted Ningyu and then said calmly, "It's very simple. If you don't kill me, I can do 3 things for you." Shin Tu Hao seemed to have made a great sacrifice and said, "But I have a condition. These 3 things must be within my ability, not something I can't do." Okay, the first thing is to kill the East War Venerable. The Sword of Evil pointed to the East War Venerable and said, This, Shin Tu Hao was instantly stunned. Originally, he wanted to bluff his way through first, and then wait for an opportunity to escape. Who would have thought that the first request made by the Sword of Evil would be so terrifying? Shin Tu Hao felt like a dog in his heart. He had no way of contending against the Sword of Evil, and he also had no way of contending against the Middle War Venerable. Now that the Sword of Evil wanted him to kill the East War Venerable, he would probably want him to kill the Middle War Venerable. This time I really failed miserably. Shin Tu Hao regretted coming to Profound Sky City. He was the great elder of the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion. In the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion, his status was very high, and no one could order him around. However, he wanted to be the pavilion master of the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion, so he came to Profound Sky City to kill Juding the Venerable. Not only did the 9 Cauldron Venerable fail to kill him, but he also almost lost his life. East were Venerable, I have no other choice. With a thought, Shin Tu Hao turned around and walked towards the East were Venerable step by step. As he walked, Shin Tu Hao said, In the process of moving forward, Shin Tu Hao glanced at Venerable Yu from the corner of his eye. The meaning was self-evident, causing Venerable Yu to self-destruct, thus achieving the effect of forcing the Sword of Evil to retreat. As long as the Sword of Evil was forced to retreat, they could use their secret techniques and scatter to escape. Shin Tu Hao, are you courting death? How smart was the Middle War Venerable? Shin Tu Hao glanced at Venerable Yu from the corner of his eye, and he knew what Shin Tu Hao was thinking. Chapter 1078. Transformation, Middle War Sovereign. As you can see, I have no choice. If I don't kill the East War Sovereign, I will die. Shin Tu-hao stopped, spread out his hands towards the Middle War Elder, and said, I hope you will let me live. Shin Tu-hao's words caused the corners of everyone's mouths to twitch uncontrollably a few times. Who wanted to die? The price others had to pay for sparing your life was abandoning your companions. He believed that if he wasn't a heartless person, if he wasn't a heartless pill puppet, he wouldn't have done such a thing. Shin Tu-hao, is your head growing on your butt? It was clear that the medium war venerable still had a bit of conscience. He said doubtfully, Why don't you draft your words and spout shit? Humph. Hearing the Middle War Elder insult him like that, Shin Tu-hao coldly snorted and said fiercely, You are already an arrow at the end of its flight. I advise you to surrender quickly. Otherwise, the Sword of Evil will definitely kill you. I'm not sure if the Sword of Evil will kill me or not, but I do know that if you dare to make any more noise, I'll cut you into 8 pieces right now, the medium warlord said coldly as if enraged. Whoosh! The conversation between the intermediate war elder and Shin Tu-hao was completely heard by Ningyu. Sword of Evil, pay attention to the Venerable One later. Shin Tu-hao's strange behavior, in addition to him repeatedly observing the Venerable One, caused Ningyu to become suspicious. Pay attention to the Venerable One? The Sword of Evil was slightly startled and said doubtfully, Venerable Yu has already suffered heavy injuries, I'm afraid. Ningyu didn't continue to say the next sentence. However, the Sword of Evil and Ningyu knew it very well. Don't worry, I'll be careful. The Sword of Evil said in a low voice, The effects of the Berserk elixir on your body are about to run out. Take this time to rest and try to get through this period of weakness. When the time was up, Ningyu would become very weak. Unless he had a large amount of energy to support him, it was highly likely that Ningyu would become powerless. Be careful. Ningyu knew his own situation better than anyone else. After saying that, he came to the Talisman Supremacy's side and whispered, There's still 10 minutes before the effects of the Berserk fluid completely disappear. I need energy, a lot of energy. Here. At first, Talisman Martial Supremacy wanted to threaten Ningyu with her energy, but the situation had already exceeded her control. All she could do was throw a storage bag at Ningyu. Ningyu's perception entered the storage pouch and probed it for a bit. Then he nodded and said, In a moment, just act according to my expression. Whether or not we can save Yunmu will depend on this. Understood. Talisman Martial Supremacy wasn't an unreasonable person. Whether or not they could save Yunmu and live seemed to depend on the Sword of Evil on the surface. However, Talisman Martial Supremacy was clear that everything depended on Ningyu. The reason why the Sword of Evil could make a Middle War sovereign feel fear was because of the cold light that Ningyu had thrown out. Although the cold light was concealed, it was still discovered by Talisman Martial Supremacy's keen perception. I have to be closely tied to Ningyu. Talisman Martial Supremacy's expression was extremely grave. No one knew better than the Talisman Venerable that it wouldn't take long for an 8th grade Sovereign Realm expert to appear in the Flower Palace. If she had guessed correctly, the 8th grade Sovereign of the Flower Palace would definitely target Ningyu. Their secondary targets should be her and Yunmu. Bring Ningyu away and kill her and Yunmu. The palace master is being held hostage by a mysterious expert. I initially thought that bringing Ningyu back would save the Flower Palace from danger. But from the looks of it now, the entire Flower Palace has already rotted and cannot be saved. Talisman Martial Supremacy gently sighed and gradually fell silent. Shin Tu-hao, you don't want to grasp your last chance? The Sword of Evil unleashed all of his aura and pressed toward Shin Tu-hao. Crack! Uft! Under the powerful pressure, Shin Tu-hao knelt on one knee and spewed a mouthful of fresh blood. Sword of Evil, you have to leave some time for me, right? Wiping the blood off the corner of his lips, Shintahao stood up with great difficulty and said, I've already tried my best to communicate with the Middle War Sovereign. Since the Middle War Sovereign is unwilling, what else can I do? You can't do anything? Since that's the case, you can die now. As he spoke, the sword of evil stomped on the ground and his figure instantly shot out. Xiao! Shintahao seemed to have been prepared. When the sword of evil rushed out, he quickly rushed towards Yuzun. Let's go too. Ningyu and Talisman Martial Supremacy had been paying attention to Shintahao. Seeing that Shintahao's target was Yuzun, they immediately flew out and used a secret technique to get close to Yuzun. Because the martial artist beside Yuzun was Yunmu. Chi. Although Ningyu and Talisman Martial Supremacy's cultivation was lower than Shintahao's, their speed was not inferior at all. Go! In the blink of an eye, Ningyu and Talisman Martial Supremacy arrived beside Yunmu. Ningyu was in charge of taking Yunmu away, while Talisman Martial Supremacy was in charge of attacking Shintahao. You two pieces of trash want to stop me. Seeing Ningyu and Talisman Martial Supremacy, Shintahao revealed a disdainful expression and threw out 2 punches. Bang! Strictly speaking, Talisman Martial Supremacy's battle prowess was much weaker than Ningyu's. After all, she had swallowed a medicinal pill to raise her cultivation to the late 7th grade, and after the effects of the pill, her strength had dropped a lot. Being hit by Shintahao's punch, Talisman Martial Supremacy was like a kite with a broken string, his body flying out and crashing into the wall. Crack! The houses on both sides of the street were not particularly sturdy. After being hit by Talisman Martial Supremacy, they split open from the middle and collapsed. Scram! Comparatively speaking, Ningyu was much smarter. His left hand grabbed Yunmu, his right hand striking Yuzun's back, sending Yuzun flying toward Shintahao. Xiao! No one noticed that when Ningyu's palm neared Yuzun's back, a strand of soul force had quietly entered Yuzun's body. Humph! Seeing Yuzun approaching him, Shintahao snorted coldly. Raising his right leg, he fiercely kicked Yuzun's chest, sending Yuzun to the side of the Middle War Elder. Middle War Elder, hurry up! Seeing Yuzun approaching the Middle War Elder, Shintahao hurriedly shouted, All right. The Middle War Elder was not one to hesitate. He clasped his hands together, then pushed them out. A terrifying shockwave surged out from his hands, and suddenly struck Yuzun's body. Damn it! However, the moment the shockwave of the Middle War Elder's attack touched Yuzun, his expression changed greatly. He hurriedly waved his hands, gathering Yuan Qi around his body. Not good. Apart from the Middle War Elder, the surrounding spectators all widened their eyes and hurriedly retreated. Explode! At this point, how could Ningyu care about the surrounding spectators? Not only did they not leave when sovereign realm martial artists were fighting here, but they were also spectating. Suffering a bit was unavoidable. Rumble. As the word explode fell, Yuzun's body rapidly enlarged. Finally, it exploded. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.